Still don't understand? Seeing the bewildered expressions of the board members below, the faceless man couldn't help but chuckle softly, and then pointed toward the direction of the third-generation chief. What the third generation said just now wasn't meant for you, but specifically spoken for me. Amid the stunned or visibly changed expressions of the cleaners, the faceless man smiled and explained. The third generation's words were a reminder to me. If I don't deal with you first and instead head straight to the real world, I'll surely die even if I make it there. It's a way to force me to fight with you first, or perhaps it's meant to lure me into action. After glancing at the third-generation old man stirring the pot aggressively with a gloomy face, the faceless man slowly withdrew his smile and said coldly without expression, "You may not be familiar with this dead man from thousands of years ago, but I am. Back then, he almost wiped out the true gods across the 13 worlds not only with brute force but also with his despicable and insidious nature. Although I don't know what's in that pot, given my understanding of your chief, approaching rashly would be a disastrous mistake. Damn it, that beast learned his lesson after dying once." Having his plans thoroughly seen through, the third-generation old man had to stop stirring the pot with his spoon, and then, with a dark face, reached toward the stomach of the cancer board member, pulling down two identical black demonic figures. After tossing the pot bubbling away to the two camouflage demons and signaling them to chase after the departing Leon and Edward, the third-generation old man couldn't help frowning and shouted toward the board members who were now all turning their heads. "What are you staring at me for? You punks kept your heads down for so many years. How should I know you suddenly got guts this time? Why are you still staring? Tack! Get him! Pop!" With a sound like a water bubble bursting, Edward, who was already close to the gate of the deceased, couldn't help but pause, and then glanced down at his chest. The bubble left by Pisces board member using Bubble Shadow Cove for his and Leon's protection had just burst. Watching the bubble lose color rapidly after bursting, finally disappearing in the biting cold wind of the realm of the dead, Edward closed his eyes briefly, knowing Pisces board member was likely no longer with them. No, perhaps not just Pisces board member. Looking at Leon's coffin, noticing the golden footprints had dimmed, along with the few silver pins that had lost their sheen, Edward couldn't help but feel a slight sting in his nose, an overwhelming urge to cry out loud. The secret technique of the Zodiac has two modes. A permanent one, which remains even if the user dies, and a temporary one, which can be released at any time or automatically fails if the user is killed. The board members will not return. Deeply recognizing this fact, gazing at the coffin that seemed to have given up struggling, no longer making any sound, Edward gritted his teeth. A strange rage flooding his heart unstoppable. Everything was fine before. The Slaughter King Association was severely weakened. Reality was mostly stable. Everything was moving in the right direction. Damn it! Though understanding this journey into the realm of the dead was a decision made collectively and not Leon's fault alone, seeing those already dimmed footprints on the coffin, Edward's heart couldn't control the surge of intense hatred. If that bastard hadn't become a board member or convinced Taurus Pavilion to come to the realm of the dead, if everything had continued as before, everything might have turned out completely different. If we hadn't come to the realm of the dead or stayed in reality, would it have been possible fewer people would die even if the realm of the dead still attacked? If I had been a bit stronger or chosen other major combat abnormal objects back then, could I have stayed where I was supposed to be and avoided this damn escort mission? Standing inside the gate of the deceased, Edward lingered for a few seconds with a somber face, letting countless ifs float through his mind, and then couldn't help but lift his right foot and stomp hard twice on Leon's coffin lid. After releasing the weird nameless anger, Edward extended his right hand, broke off the 5 knuckles at the end of his left hand, and shoved these knuckles with countless threads one by one into the hearts of the 5 demons. Somewhere along the way, these demons that were released from the prison of Stomach God had already escaped their control and began to roar at him filled with hatred. This means the Cancer board member controlling the Stomach God Lust no longer has the power to control these demons. At this moment he likely followed the path of other board members, walking towards death. It's all because of Leon. After biting off his right thumb, he forcefully shoved it into the heart of the last demon, holding down the demon trying to shake off the coffin. Edward couldn't help but kick Leon's coffin once more. Since the first time I laid eyes on him, I knew he was up to no good, controlling the 6 struggling demons, carrying Leon's coffin out of the gate of the deceased into the gray fog isolating life and death. A gloomy-faced Edward spat towards the distant coffin, then forcefully snapped his left hand. Carrying his hand missing 5 fingers, he placed it at one side of the gate of the deceased. Sweating profusely, Edward proceeded to the other side, slotting his right hand missing a thumb into place, pulling tight lines filled with thread between the 2 gates. What's more sickening than having to protect someone you despise? Is that guy saved your life? Grinding his teeth, pressing his broken elbow against the thread, Edward pushed the sharp control thread into his flesh, dyeing the lines strung between the gates red. Feeling the approaching death from afar, Edward's grating expression finally eased somewhat. I have repaid everything I owed you. Witnessing the blood-red threads stretching throughout the gate of the deceased, as well as the Scorpio chief glaring from behind, 6 vague figures shrouded in dark fog could not help but utter a surprised sound. You're not running? Heh! Facing the puzzled inquiry of the 6-faced elephant deer, the Scorpio chief, face pale as death, coldly laughed, lifted his right foot without a shoe, and stepped onto the thread sealing the gate of the deceased completely, causing these sharp threads to cut his footsole. Once again dyed with a dark blood color. I never intended to run. Moreover, facing my sacrifice of 2 palms, using 70% of the blood to set up a blockage, no matter how strong you are. How is it possible? Taking out a silver carving knife to slice hard, witnessing the threads before him swiftly severed, fluttering down like red willow catkins. The 6 figures hidden within the dark fog shook their heads unanimously. The posture looks hefty, but the person really isn't. Vaguely sensing something, the carving craftsman who severed the thread suddenly stepped back, attempting to dodge the inexplicable approaching sense of danger, but ultimately slowed by half a beat. His arm was kicked squarely by a suddenly extended human right foot, resulting in a crisp sound of bone breaking. Why, how are you here? Seeing Leon suddenly appear in form and break the craftsman's arm with a kick, the director of the Scorpio Bureau widened his eyes in surprise. Didn't I send you? What you sent away was an empty coffin. After glancing at the miserable director of the Scorpio Bureau, Leon pointed to his heart and quickly explained. I just stirred your heart lake a bit, causing you to loosen the sealed coffin from inside him. As his right foot suddenly lifted to avoid a muddy hand grabbing from below, Leon gazed sharply at the 6 figures obscured by black mist inside the gate of the deceased and said expressionlessly, You actually ambushed me. So you're not confident in defeating me? It seems your condition isn't as good as it appears. Is it? Indeed, it's not great. Facing Leon's obvious probe, the 6-faced elephant deer didn't choose to hide, but nodded, admitting frankly, Your Bureau of Cleansing people have indeed caused me a lot of trouble. As the 6-faced elephant deer answered, the black mist surrounding it dispersed automatically, revealing the body previously hidden. The overlords of the dead realm that the 6-faced elephant deer had assimilated were covered with various bizarre means all over their bodies. The most miserable among them was the mortician, forever entwined with a shroud. It seemed to be clenched by an invisible large hand in the center, its entire body twisted into a ball, turning into an indiscernible mass of bloody waste, from which a large amount of foul blood and minced flesh incessantly oozed. Grandma Crow-Eye's iconic crow eyes had been gouged out, replaced by numerous baby mouth-sized slits all over her body. Countless cold eyes were opening from these slits on her corpse, gazing maliciously at the world around. The concealing master and the yellow worm of Ditch Valley, though alive, had grotesque demonic forms. One's body was crawling with ant-like demons, and the sound of teeth gnawing at flesh resonated by its ears, while the other was split in 2, its lower half completely hollowed out, leaving only half of a shriveled worm skin. So, would you be willing to step aside? After showing his state, the faceless man, whose face was sealed by a bronze mask, looked at Leon from behind the mask and negotiated calmly. Though now severely injured, nearly 2/3 killed by you all, as long as I remain in the realm of the dead, these shattered parts will not truly die. Just one sunrise and sunset will suffice for a full recovery. And if you let me through the gate of the deceased, allowing my return to the living world, just a trivial sacrifice would be enough to cut off support from the dead realm, offering a chance to completely solve my issue. What are you prepared to choose? How should I choose? I have no choice. After listening carefully to the six-faced elephant deer's response and obtaining the information he wanted, Leon nodded slightly, then tightened his grip on the cutting silver dagger in his hand, making an air slash towards the six figures in front of him. You're actually using my own thing against me? Seeing the familiar little dagger in Leon's hand, the faceless man couldn't help but let out a wry smile, then temporarily let down his guard, preparing to send the craftsman, who wielded the face-cutting, to reclaim his initially lost powers. However, actually, dying like this doesn't seem so bad. Upon sensing the will coming back from within the craftsman, the faceless man's eyes behind the mask abruptly widened, immediately forcing restraint on the craftsman's body, dragging it out of the cutting silver dagger's range of attack. However, Leon's attack was never aimed at the craftsman from the start, nor did he launch any actual attack. It was merely a mere gesture of lifting his hand, and only now did the real assault begin. Seizing the opportunity caused by the dissonance within the six-faced elephant deer's muddled will, the silver short dagger in Leon's hand suddenly enlarged, transforming into a slobbering three-headed hellhound. Each of its heads grabbed one of the three overlords of the dead realm, lifting their necks to swallow them whole. Stop! Realizing there was something wrong with Leon's kick, the faceless man shouted angrily, disregarding the bizarre tearing sensation in his soul, forcibly unifying the wills within the six bodies using pure strength. Under the command of the faceless man, the three overlords of the dead realm swallowed by the three-headed dog immediately began to struggle with all their might. The dog head that swallowed the yellow worm of Ditch Valley whimpered in pain and then burst apart on the spot, spitting out the half-swallowed yellow worm of Ditch Valley. However, the Mortician and Grandma Crow-Eye, having already died in battle with the Bureau of Cleansing, merely struggled slightly before being forcefully pressed down by the pale-faced Leon, and were swallowed whole. Through despicable ambush and cunning schemes, you successfully disrupted the soul of the six-faced elephant deer and cruelly devoured two of its avatars. The number of true gods of the Netherworld devoured currently is 5, specifically including the Guardian Deathhound and the Wailing Puppet. Detected that the two avatars you swallowed each contain the powers of another true god of the Netherworld. Updating the devoured count, the current count is 7. The remaining undevoured true gods of the Netherworld count is 8, specifically including the Craftsman, Faceless Man, Yellow Worm of Ditch Valley, Concealing Master, Lantern Elder. After devouring all true gods of the Netherworld, your hidden gold-level badge, Food God Demon, will advance to the Hidden Variety badge. I am the End of Death. Current progress is July 15th. How could this be? Ignoring the heartache of Leon devouring two of its avatars, upon retrieving the will within the craftsman, the tranquil, calm, even a bit philosophical mindset left the faceless man feeling an inexplicable chill running from its spine to the depths of its heart. As the only overlord of the dead realm who reached death, and then successfully transcended it, its willpower was so strong that even death couldn't obliterate it. But just being lightly kicked by the food god resulted in a complete transformation. What did you do? Seeing Leon, pale as a sheet, the faceless man, while attempting to cleanse the corrupted mind of the craftsman, asked suspiciously, "You can forcibly alter the will of the deceased? That kick you made just now, is that the anomaly forged by the bureau chief from 3 generations ago?" Hee. Facing the six-faced elephant deer's question, Leon silently hesitated for a moment, then suddenly managed to grin at him and vomited a large amount of soul residue with a loud retch. Despite possessing a collection of strange badges, without the heart lakes of countless deceased for maneuvering, Leon ultimately remains a false true god with only 59 points of contamination value. And though Grandma Crow-Eye and the Mortician have been killed, the quality of their souls still remains genuinely at the deity column level. In the circumstance where a quarter of his soul was originally missing, forcefully swallowing the souls of 2 column-level deities is undoubtedly an extremely hazardous act. Leon's soul, overfilled and riddled with cracks, was almost at the limit of what his current state could bear. Unfortunately, if it had come a little slower, I could have stayed a bit longer in the coffin, repaired a bit more of my missing soul, and maybe avoided almost bursting myself from the inside. With a slightly regretful sigh, Leon wiped his mouth. Then, under the watchful and abruptly widened eyes of the faceless man, he pulled out a large pot both were immensely familiar with, clanging it down onto the ground. That kick just now was my own ability. After catching his breath while holding the pot's edge, Leon reached into the cooking pot of the third-generation elder and spoke flatly. This is what he left for me. The thing left behind by the third director, that anomalous object capable of threatening me? Watching Leon pull it out from the large pot, that crimson weapon formed by dozens of miniaturized and twisted divine corpses intertwined together, looking at those slowly moving faces of the true gods on the gun barrel as if they hadn't truly died, feeling the immense weight of their resentment and unwillingness. The faceless man felt as if his entire body was seized by a bizarre coldness, even during the desperate journey through the frozen Coffin River, being eroded by the purest death. This chill was far more terrifying than the spear before him. Can't win. Absolutely can't win. It was as if the prey, the wild rabbit that had encountered the hunting dog, or the antelope that smelled the predator. A bizarre epiphany of facing a natural enemy, accompanied by fear, instantly dominated the thoughts of the six-faced elephant deer, even causing the 8 overlords of the dead realm he had assimilated or devoured to tremble uncontrollably. Even though the road to the present world was down to the last step, as long as he defeated the food god before him, he could fulfill the wish he had pursued for thousands of years and return to the world brimming with vitality. Yet, an intuition from the deepest part of his soul frantically warned the six-faced elephant deer from the depths of death. Taking another step forward, everything he had gained so far would be completely destroyed. Run. I must run. Upon determining this as the only way to survive, the six-faced elephant deer instantly reached a consensus with all the assimilated overlords of the dead realm within him, and the remaining 4 bodies turned to flee without even daring a glance backward. However, Leon, who was fully prepared, had already assumed the standard shooting stance, resting the long gun, which gathered half the essence of the Slaughter King Association, on his shoulder. Swish! With a sound like fabric unfurling, a dark carpet stained with blood spread out like the shadow cast by something enormous on the ground of the pale realm of the dead, reaching under the fleeing feet of the six-faced elephant deer in an instant. Next, the remaining 4 clones of the six-faced elephant deer felt the entire world rapidly retreating. Their bodies, which had already run an unknown distance, were forcibly pulled back by the dark red carpet beneath their feet. To their greater horror, several seemingly fragile yet utterly unbreakable ropes directly bound their limbs, forcibly tying their struggling bodies to a stake stained with blood and unknown yellow-white grime. The execution of the dead was about to begin. After a glance at the despair-filled eyes of the faceless man, Leon adjusted the gun slightly, aiming at the center of its brow. Then, enduring pain that felt like his head would explode, clutched the dry, skeletal finger. As Leon's finger touched the trigger, the fullness that nearly swelled his soul to bursting instantly faded by half, transforming into a nail imbued with the aura of death, silently lodging itself in the chamber before vanishing at the trigger's pull. Bang! In the eyes of the Scorpio Bureau's director, overwhelmed with shock, a large hole suddenly burst open at the center of the forehead of the faceless man tied to the stake, an unimaginably dense aura of death gushing from the opening at the back of its head, splattering a large pool of pitch-black ice crystals onto the blood-soaked carpet. To his greater astonishment, after Leon shot the faceless man in the head, the figure tied to the stake did not die. Instead, it released a peculiar aura he knew all too well, akin to a sponge drained of water. It was the scent of the living. I'm alive. I'm alive. Filled with bewilderment and shock, the faceless man looked at his no longer cold but warm body, understanding spiritually the effect of that weapon. A thing that made him, at the peak of the dead, genuinely fearful and instinctively feel unbeatable, could only be life itself. So, it's a gun that can resurrect the dead. Bang! After loading an actual nail into the gun, Leon coldly shot out the faceless man's head, and without even glancing at its corpse now filled with joy, he directly turned the gun, aiming at the stonemason tied beside the faceless man. No! 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 Understanding what Leon intended, the six-faced elephant deer, who had just expressed joy, now showed unparalleled fear in their eyes and face. This anomalous object forged by the third director was not intended to kill him, but to directly execute death itself. Upon being thoroughly killed and transformed back into the living, having lost the authority over death, he would become an ordinary person through and through, and in the moment of his rebirth, the food god would utterly destroy his newborn self. "You can't do this to me." Gazing at the gun pointing at him, with thoughts dispersed but regaining most of his sanity, the stonemason couldn't help but struggle frantically, screaming with rage. "If you can do such a thing, why not say so earlier? If I were revived before returning to the present world, wouldn't—" Bang! Bang! With 2 shots, one for life, one for death, quickly sending off the snarling stonemason, Leon exhaled deeply and then turned his emotionless gaze, aiming the gun at the concealing master beside the stonemason's corpse. "Impossible, don't even think about it." Looking at the concealing master who struggled with all his might and shouted madly at him, Leon closed his eyes slightly, then touched the cutting silver dagger, transforming it into 3 black dogs again, directing them towards the faceless man and the stonemason's corpses. This anomalous object crafted by the old man of the 3rd generation with my abilities has the effect of shooting out death. But this effect first requires ammunition. The gun bullet created after devouring a dead pillar god happens to capture and execute a dead entity at the pillar god level. So, the ammunition for my 2 shots was essentially you, as those left in the realm of the dead used all their strength to completely kill your 2 avatars, giving me the chance to consume these 2 bullets. As for communicating with you beforehand, that was utterly impossible as well. Not to mention whether you would trust me or would willingly give up the power and eternal life of death to resurrect as a human with merely over 100 years of lifespan. Given your absolute superiority and full capability to reach the present world, you couldn't accept such a halved proposal. Moreover, both you and all the overlords of the dead realm you've assimilated still owe us, the Bureau of Cleansing, and even the whole of humanity a blood debt, and naturally, a blood debt must be paid with blood. Clack! As the 3-headed hound devoured the dead stonemason and faceless man and licked clean the black ice crystals shot out onto the execution platform, a pitch-black new nail appeared in the gun chamber, and Leon's finger tightly squeezed the trigger again. "Goodbye." "No. No." Seeing the ominous black muzzle aimed at himself, and not far from the cold muzzle, Leon's eyes were 10 times colder than the muzzle itself. The remaining 2 bodies of the 6-faced elephant deer couldn't help but burn entirely, trying to snatch the last line of hope for themselves. However, the quality of the firearm in Leon's hand was far too high. The substrate used in its forging was a bloody execution targeting 40 true gods, followed by using up more than half of the members of the Slaughter King Association, and the vast stockpile of materials accumulated by the Bureau over many years. Once an anomaly of this level unfolds, it is equivalent to falling into the truth of the column god, leaving no room for struggle at all. Even the 6-faced elephant deer, standing at the pinnacle of the realm of the dead, cannot escape from the shackles. Food god! Seeing that no matter how they struggled, it had no effect, the 6-faced elephant deers couldn't help but open their mouths collectively, launching into a hysterical roar as if they were insane. "Don't push me. Otherwise—" Bang! Facing the threat of the 6-faced elephant deer, Leon's finger didn't hesitate in the slightest, and firmly pulled the trigger of the gun. The black death-imbued nail pierced through the mouth of the concealing master, as it passed through its indistinct head, bringing out a sluice of oily black blood, swiftly freezing into dark ice crystals, which splattered onto the murky red carpet, creating another flower of death. Along with the death-dealing nail completing its mission, another nail tasked with executing the living came flying from the same direction and position, completely blasting apart the head of the concealing master, spilling a layer of steaming blood-red liquid onto the carpet covered with cold black frost. Zover, seeing those black ice crystals stained red with blood, Understanding that Leon had made up his mind and would accept no threats, a deep despair surfaced on the face of Kuroa Yellow Worm, who then raised its head and let out a shrill howl. Under Leon's vigilant gaze, the huge form of Kuroa Yellow Worm instantly shriveled, briefly escaping from the fetters of the execution pile and chain. A bizarre creature, adorned with the trunk of an elephant and the teeth of a deer, sporting 6 different faces, emerged covered in slime from the mouth of Kuroa Yellow Worm. Is this the true form of the 6-faced elephant deer? Glancing at the soaking wet, gray-furred little beast, and perceiving the scent of death on it, Leon narrowed his eyes, then without hesitation raised his rifle again, aiming at its head. It doesn't matter, as long as you're still deceased. It's impossible to escape the execution of this rifle. It's just one more time. However, much to Leon's surprise, the 6-faced elephant deer that burrowed out of Kuroa Yellow Worm's body did not make any resistance against the binding of the execution pile and chain. Instead, it stood still, allowing itself to be bound, while its 12 pupilless eyes looked at him, full of hatred yet tainted with slight pleasure. Ah! This time it's really troublesome. As Leon frowned at the 6-faced elephant deer, trying to understand why it was acting so strangely, a voice full of helplessness suddenly echoed from behind the Scorpio Bureau chief, who was watching from a distance. Seeing when an unknown, rectangular-headed old man, alongside Emma, appeared behind him, Edward, who had just attached his 2 hands back, couldn't help but be shocked. 3. Don't shout! Don't shout! Waving his hand to signal him not to be noisy, the 3rd-generation director, looking completely composed and not missing a single hair, gazed solemnly into the distance at the standoff between Leon and the 6-faced elephant deer, and said worriedly, "I didn't expect it to really go all out. Leon is in trouble this time." 3rd generation, sir? Upon hearing the words of the 3rd-generation old man, Emma's expression tightened involuntarily as she hurriedly asked, "Is Leon in danger?" I wouldn't say in danger, but if it doesn't go well, Leon might physically survive, but he would be no different than being dead." "How can that be?" Emma's face turned pale at these words, and she hastily grabbed the arm of the 3rd-generation old man. "3rd generation, sir. Could you think of a way?" "No." You all hold on for a moment, growing more and more confused, with 1,000 questions pent up inside. The Scorpio Bureau chief finally couldn't take it anymore and pursued with bewilderment. "Weren't you supposed to be taken out by the 6-faced elephant deer? How are you here? And she wasn't supposed to go to the present world with that coffin, so why?" TSK. Glancing back at the Scorpio Bureau chief, knowing that he had to clarify the situation, the 3rd-generation old man said with disdain, "Didn't Leon already say? The coffin you sent away was empty, so of course, this young girl wasn't inside it. As for why I'm here, the coffin in which they lay cuddled up, that's the one I used when I died back then, and a lingering obsession of mine before death can naturally appear wherever the coffin is." "But how could your coffin?" "Fool, the strength of Leon's soul has already matched or surpassed ordinary true gods. Besides my coffin, which great sage's coffin could basically repair his soul trauma within a few hours. Use your head. And I didn't avoid death to hide away, okay?" As if suddenly recalling something, the 3rd-generation old man glanced warily at Edward, then hastily explained, "I originally just wanted to forge a few more things, and when such a powerful item was made, if I got killed before even seeing its effect, my life would be too pitiful. Wouldn't you agree?" "Aye." "Enough. Stop talking. I've got serious matters here." Signaling Edward to shut up, the 3rd-generation old man tugged at his somewhat loose trousers, then glanced at Emma, who had an anxious look on her face, sighed, and said meaningfully, "Little girl, your man is now in trouble. If there's a way to help him, but it requires sacrificing yourself. What do you say?" "What do I say?" Emma was momentarily stunned, and after looking at the expression of the 3rd-generation old man, a look of realization came over her eyes. "3rd generation, sir. There's no need to test my thoughts." Seeing through the rectangular-headed old man's guise directly, and vaguely guessing his intention, Emma bit her lip, her expression momentarily dazed, as if seeing the image of her daughter crying and waiting for her to return home. But after lifting her head and looking afar, seeing the silhouette coalescing the fourth bullet and aiming at the six-faced elephant deer, Emma ultimately took a deep breath, her fair hands clenched tightly. If Leon is in danger, please tell me what to do and hurry up about it. Something always feels a bit off. Unaware of the happenings behind him, Leon watched as the six-faced elephant deer, no longer struggling after solidifying its form, seemed to emanate a sense of wholeheartedly seeking death. Leon furrowed his brows, hesitating on whether he should shoot. Noticing his hesitation, the glee in the 12 eyes of the six-faced elephant deer grew even stronger, and then it split its 6 mouth corners into a cold smirk. You're sharp, but it's already too late. Under Leon's furrowed gaze, the six-faced elephant deer slowly raised a front hoof with difficulty and pointed toward the distant, shadowy no-return path, speaking with eyes full of hatred. The creator of the no-return path was the first deceased being, the one who first comprehended the power of death, took the mantle of death from the realm of the dead, becoming the world's first sentient being, becoming the overlord of the dead realm. And thanks to you, I've now become the dead realm's last overlord. Besides me, no other deceased can wield the power over death. If he was the first deceased, then I am the last deceased. Don't understand, do you? Seeing Leon still pondering with furrowed brows, the six-faced elephant deer spoke mockingly. Being the last deceased means I have the qualification to completely let go, and I've just made my choice. Once you kill me, the power of death will be returned to the entire dead realm. So, after a brief silence, Leon replied expressionlessly. Sounds like a good thing. Heh, it might be good for the clearing bureau, but not for you. Looking at the distant gun still aimed at itself, the six-faced elephant deer's mouth corners widened even more. The dead realm is no longer what it originally was. From the moment the first deceased appeared, the power of death couldn't completely return. So if I completely return the power over death, it will emerge from the dead realm and seek a new master. Reaching this point, the six-faced elephant deer paused slightly, then raised its front hoof and pointed at Leon, eyes gleaming with glee. And that person can only be you. You seem to have realized what this truly means. Seeing the gun barrel tremble slightly in the distance, sensing Leon's suddenly jittery aura, the six-faced elephant deer tied to the stake burst into laughter. Though you are alive, you've devoured more death overlords than me. You, covered in death, are the sole choice for the power over death. And a truly complete power over death cannot be wielded by the living. So when the time comes, you will become a genuine deceased under the influence of death power, just like the first deceased. And as the newly born dead realm overlord, you will remain here forever like me. Become a deceased. After hearing the six-faced elephant deer's words, Leon remained silent for a moment before responding. That's not something I can't accept, and if this truly happens, I would gain eternal life, not be without reward. Hey, you won't always think so. Facing Leon's retort, the six-faced elephant deer tied to the stake showed a scornful yet pitying expression, then spoke through gritted teeth, eyes almost brimming with pain. Food God, after your first century, you'll rejoice at having eternal life, glad at your wise choice, no longer fearing the disappearance of your existence. But after 5 centuries, you'll begin to tire of this endless cycle, weary of the ceaseless mourning dirty dead. Fed up with this dead-still, hollow black and white world. What sustains you then, keeping you from choosing death, is the memories left from your life. Even those excruciatingly sad memories will become incredibly precious to you. And when the first millennium arrives, when even the memories from life have blurred, causing your memories and vision to fade, remembering no colors but that filthy black and white gray, you'll become just like me. As if recalling the countless painful memories left in the past ages, the six-faced elephant deer frantically stretched its neck, eyes madly shouting, "Go back! I want to return. I don't want to remain in this black and white only place. I want to see the red sun again. I want to look at the clouds in the sky. I want to look at the ground beneath my feet." I want to see the place I once lived again. As long as my eyes are no longer filled with this filthy black and white, I wouldn't mind dying the next second. Facing the hysterical roar of the six-faced elephant deer, Leon, after remaining silent for a while, couldn't help but remind. You might have forgotten, actually clouds are white, ground is black. Both count as black and white. My God, was that what I meant? Leon's interruption drained its momentum, as the six-faced elephant deer's six mouths opened and closed twice, then couldn't hold back anymore, struggling madly and shouting in rage. Food God, my current state is your future. Remember well, after my death you'll take the mantle of death, and everything you touch thereafter will uncontrollably head toward death. In this filthy world, no one escapes madness. Even if you're stronger than me, can endure 500 years, 1,000 years, even 10,000 years, and even longer torment awaits you. Reaching this point, seeing Leon raise his gun at it again, the six-faced elephant deer paused slightly. Then its brows and eyes twisted, face full of cruel laughter. Ha ha! Food God! You'll eventually reach a time when you can't endure anymore and go mad. And hope that by then, you still remember my words today. Ahaha! I can't wait to know what expression you'll show then. You! Bang! Fingers pulled the trigger, blasting off the six-faced elephant deer's head. Leon deftly loaded another shot pin, blasting out the last crimson bloom of the dead realm. You're quite amusing. With the shot pin reaching the six-faced elephant deer and crushing its heart, came a voice full of puzzled retort. I have a gun. If you want to take a look back, why not just give yourself a shot? Damn! As the six-faced elephant deer uttered its sorrowful last words and fell down motionless, the vast world of death seemed to receive some signal, plunging entirely into an extremely eerie stillness. The gray mist outside the gate of the deceased stopped drifting. The crows rising from the nest of crows of death report were frozen in midair. The constantly churning river of Yellow Springs ceased flowing completely, and on the no-return path winding toward the deepest part of the dead realm, countless deceased also froze in place. In Leon's perception, death, which was infinitely more stubborn than time and never stopped for anyone, suddenly halted for an extremely brief moment, then graciously lowered its massive body and cast a scrutinizing gaze upon him. Is this what it feels like to be chosen by the authority of death? Unconsciously raising his head to the sky, after a glance with the majestic figure that didn't actually exist, Leon vaguely felt an incomparably wonderful illusion. At this moment, his soul seemed to fall to the bottom of the dead realm, becoming the eye of a gigantic funnel, and the already frozen dead realm was beginning to collapse entirely towards him under some kind of will. Sizzle! Accompanied by a familiar, piercing noise, the materialism, which had been quietly lying in the emblem panel and firmly occupying the first slot, suddenly radiated an incomparably dazzling crimson light. The current contamination value has exceeded 60 points, granting the ability to come into contact with and initially grasp rules. The hidden trait of the iridescent emblem Materialist Soul is activated. Materialist Soul, crimson as a staunch materialist, you firmly believe that matter is the fundamental basis of objective existence, and phenomena of spirit and consciousness are all products of matter. Things that cannot be understood are due to an inaccurate and shallow understanding of the world itself. Wearing effect. Advancement path. Reached highest level, cannot advance further. Hidden trait. Whenever your understanding of a core rule of the world reaches a certain level, you will acquire the ability to modify it to a corresponding degree. Current parsing progress, listed by understanding level present world, 15%. Realm of the dead, 12%. Dream world, 9%. Abyss, 1.5%. Star realm, 0.1%. Old soil, 0.1%. Sizzle. You have passively accepted an injection from the authority of death, enhancing your understanding of the realm of the dead. You are gradually understanding death. Sizzle. Due to a lack of understanding of death by the living, parsing progress is paused. Current parsing progress of the realm of the dead is 49.9%. The authority of death continues to lean towards you. Your living portion derived from the present world is being covered by the authority of death. Once the coverage is complete, fully transforming you into deceased, an anomaly occurs, the authority of death is diverting, and the coverage speed is continuously decreasing. Upon hearing the prompt that the coverage stopped, Leon, who was closing his eyes and raising his head to receive the baptism, ready to temporarily take over this mess of a dead realm, was momentarily stunned. Then, as if thinking of something, instinctively turned back sharply. In Leon's astonished gaze, a figure very familiar to him was at this moment standing next to the gate of the deceased, actively taking on that majestic gaze. Wait! Feeling the authority of death tilting towards Emma, Leon couldn't help but feel a sharp pang of anxiety, wanting to interrupt her behavior of stepping into death voluntarily to prevent her from being left in the dead realm. However, without an overlord of the dead realm, the realm had already entered a complete suspension state, almost a giant amber before the appearance of a new overlord. As a mosquito frozen inside, even moving became a luxury for Leon. And what was even more deadly was that although Leon had swallowed almost all the overlords of the dead realm, as a living being who hadn't truly experienced death, his understanding of the power of death really wasn't profound. But Emma, not only possessing the bloodline that blurs the lines of life and death, was also a once-returned deceased from the no-return path. Having successfully comprehended the power of death while alive, she was much closer to death than Leon ever was. If she hadn't stepped forward, Leon, who had swallowed the most death, would smoothly take over the authority of death by sheer quantity attraction. But now that she had stepped out, death would naturally start to instinctively tilt toward a true deceased. Damn it! Had I known, I would have sent her back first. Realizing that he probably couldn't compete with Emma, Leon's face turned pale, and a heavy sense of regret welled up in his heart. Despite mocking the six-faced elephant deer just now, pretending not to care and declaring he wouldn't mind a shot to himself, it didn't mean he could casually take that shot. Not to mention, killing a deceased requires using the same level of ammunition and can't be resurrected at will. Just looking at the chaotic state of the dead realm right now, the one who takes over the authority of death will be firmly anchored in the realm. All the overlords of the dead realm had been dealt with by him, and who knows when the next existence capable of understanding death might emerge, yet the dead realm must have someone overseeing the authority of death to avoid ending up in its current complete suspension. This means that even with means to return to the present world, the first shot might take a very long time before it could be fired. With poor luck, waiting hundreds or even thousands of years wouldn't be impossible. If he took on this role, he might still find a way to make an early return to the present world through the emblems obtained in the future. But if Emma took over from him, who knows how long she'd have to wait here. Emma! Furious, he glared at the old loaf who was shrinking back his neck, knowing that this must be his instigation. Leon's face turned fierce as he gritted his teeth and shouted remotely, "Don't listen to that old fool's nonsense. I have a way to return to the present world early. You don't need to replace me. Stop!" Hearing Leon's cry, Emma's figure at a distance slightly wavered, then stopped her stare with death itself and looked down gently towards his side. Receiving that still gentle gaze, Leon immediately understood her meaning, that Emma was telling him that taking over the authority of death and presiding over the dead realm on his behalf was a willing choice of hers. He shouldn't feel guilty, nor should he obstruct. And for Emma, who seemed gentle and elegant on the outside but was extremely tenacious within, once she truly made a choice, no matter how much he might persuade, it would probably be of no use. Damn it! That damned old third-generation head. After making a mental note to hold a grudge against the third-generation old man, feeling the increasingly thin death authority surrounding him, Leon couldn't help but rack his brains for a moment and then loudly persuaded again. Stop it! Think about Ellie. Upon hearing her daughter's name, Emma paused slightly, a hint of hesitation appearing in her eyes. Sharp to notice this change, Leon's eyes lit up, and he quickly continued to shout, "Think about it. She's only got you left as family. If you just leave her like that, what will that child do?" This family emotional blackmail trick, although a bit old-fashioned, really worked well on Emma. Her once stable soul immediately wavered, and the efficiency of her seizing the death authority instantly dropped. Just as Leon was overjoyed, ready to continue the momentum, the third-generation old man, who had been ducking his head, raised his head a little and murmured softly behind his hand. "Don't worry, you two were already involved, and this time you took over the matter of the dead realm for him. When he returns, he will certainly treat your daughter as his own, perhaps even better." "You bastard!" Although Leon didn't know what the third-generation old man had said, seeing his sparse hair waving in the wind on top of his head, and Emma's spirit suddenly calming down again, Leon immediately understood that it must have been his doing again. "Emma!" After mentally tying the third-generation old man up and beating him 10,000 times, considering that scolding him now would only have side effects, Leon had to swallow his anger and pretend not to see, then continued to speak earnestly. "Emma, don't forget, that child is waiting for you to come home. Imagine, if you stay in the realm of the dead, how sad would she be to never see you again? Don't worry, don't worry. That can be easily arranged. I've already thought about it for you." Glancing at Emma's soul, which was once again wavering, the third-generation old man sneaked a peek at Leon, then quickly shrank his head back and said with a grin, "If you can't go back, why not have your daughter come to find you?" "Really? Really?" Seeing Emma's expression of surprise and joy, the third-generation old man bared his teeth in a cheerful manner and said, "Listen, when you were lying in my coffin, I took a little peek at your memory and found that the child's talent is no worse than yours, and she's naturally as close to death as you are. I can assure you through the mentorship relationship with that boy, in just a few years, your daughter will be able to enter and exit the living world and the realm of the dead freely, like those great mediums, and can visit you anytime she wants. Moreover, considering the special bond between you and her, she might not even need to wait several years. Maybe she'll come to you in a dream tomorrow night, so it's all good. And think about it, that boy is also half the Lord of Nightmares. He's quite adept at this. Even if your daughter can't actively control dreams, he can easily help out, and after he's done helping, he can follow your daughter's dream and come to see you. When Ellie wants to see me, he'll come too." "Shut your mouth." Seeing Emma's face turn slightly red and her soul suddenly solidify like a diamond, Leon realized he couldn't persuade her anymore. He lost his composure and gritted his teeth, pulling out the cutting silver dagger, slashing at the third-generation old man aimlessly. However, the entire realm of the dead was currently in a state of suspension. The authorities belonging to the six-faced elephant deer and the crafter had already been returned. Even with Leon's current true god level of 60 contamination value, these strikes had no effect, not even a sound. After instinctively dodging a couple of times and realizing that Leon couldn't attack him, the third-generation old man, who had been hiding his head the whole time, finally relaxed. He stood up with a grin, then used both hands to make a trumpet shape around his mouth, shouting toward Leon, "No need for thanks. Just do a good job with the cleanup crew when you return. Don't disgrace me." Holy shit! Under Leon's gaze, which seemed like he wanted to devour the third-generation old man alive, the gaze from death itself completely shifted its target, infusing the remaining 50.1% of the authority into Emma's soul. With the birth of a new overlord, the completely stalled realm of the dead finally resumed operations. The dead on the no-return path began to march again. The silt-laden yellow spring surged forward. Panic-stricken death crows flew up into the sky. The gray fog outside the gate of the deceased resumed drifting, and Leon's shoe pierced directly through the third-generation old man's backside, kicking the ebony coffin on the ground flying. "No, no, no. Don't do it." It seemed he hadn't expected the realm of the dead to recover so quickly. Looking at Leon's grim face standing in front of him, the third-generation old man, who hadn't had time to crawl into the coffin, showed a hint of regret in his eyes, then straightened his pants that nearly slipped down and cleared his throat. "I can explain. Even though either of you could take over the death authority, becoming one of the dead might limit your potential and cause a void in the living world, whereas if she takes over the death authority... Help! Someone save me!"
"Leon, I'm okay."
After calling out, Emma gently touched Leon's arm, stopping his fist he intended to throw, then soothingly said, "The third-generation lord is right. Having me take over the realm of the dead is indeed better than having you do it. But you, think about it, what would happen to Anna and the others if you stayed behind? You just asked if I've thought about Ellie. But did you think about them when you decided to take over the realm of the dead?" Leon, you... Oh! As she instinctively held Leon's palm, feeling it become scaldingly hot, Emma couldn't help but pause, then with a bit of loneliness, withdrew her hand which no longer had warmth, and steeled herself again, gently reminding with a warm gaze, "Leon, you don't need to worry about me. If no new overlord for the realm of the dead appears in the next 200 years, Ellie, with her medium talent, can still often see me. However, if it's Melanie and William, they might really have to wait until death to see you. So even though the third-generation lord has some ulterior motives, his suggestion is right. Whether it's to ensure the safety of the living world or for Anna and the others, me staying in your place is the best choice." The best choice, is it? Recalling the icy touch from just now, Leon's lips moved slightly, unable to suppress the urge to pull Emma's hand into his grasp, tightly holding her hand that could not warm up, and said with a full sense of guilt, "But for you, it's okay. I don't feel that it's unfair at all. In fact, now is the fairest." Leon hadn't spoken yet, but Emma had already guessed what he would say, and shook her head preemptively, then held the slightly searing hand in reverse, turning to look into Leon's guilty eyes with a smile. Her gaze as gentle as water, she said softly, "I'm already one of the dead now, so the living you belong to that princess. I won't fight over that, but in fairness, when you die, she can't fight over you with me either. Isn't your timing a bit too early here?" Leon, who didn't expect this turn of events at all, found himself at a loss for words, his mouth agape for a good while. Seeing the usually calm Leon's dumbfounded expression, Emma couldn't help but press her lips together and promptly let out a light chuckle. "Why do you believe everything I say? It's obviously to trick you." Upon hearing this, Leon couldn't help but let out a slight sigh of relief. "So it was a lie, it gave me a fright, I was just saying. However, not everything I said is false." Reaching out to smooth the collar of Leon's shirt, which was crumpled by a gunstock, Emma's delicate brows arched as she gently advised with a cheerful voice, "Remember to be safe. I didn't plan to force it, but if your reckless actions cause you to come over to accompany me early and you lose control, it's not my problem." Glancing at Leon, who was choked to silence, the elderly third generation standing aside eyed him with disdain reserved for past seniors. "With that demeanor, he surely can't hold on. I'd wager 10. Oh dear. Third generation, sir." Leon, who held 49.9% equity of the realm of the dead, grabbed the third-generation elder's consciousness and respectfully, yet with a hint of fierceness, addressed the one who caused all this commotion. "Was my predicament entertaining to you? Let's calm down a bit first."
I'm perfectly calm.
Taking a deep breath, Leon slowly released the grip on his collar, urging through gritted teeth, "My esteemed teacher, if you've had enough entertainment, can we get on with the real business?" It seems this mentor-disciple relationship is now irreversible, but it's not too bad. Glancing at the fierce weapon in Leon's hand, the third-generation elder estimated what ranking this creation could achieve among the numbered anomalies, then hastily replied, "We're getting on with it. The highest authority of the realm of the dead was just transferred. They can't return immediately, we still need to wait a bit longer." "Them returning?" Hearing the third-generation elder's words, the Scorpio Bureau chief, who stood mournfully aside, out of place with the atmosphere, suddenly widened his eyes. "Third generation, sir? You mean exactly what you're thinking." Satisfied with the Scorpio Bureau chief's exhilarated expression, the third-generation elder tugged up his trousers with a hint of pride and said, "Though a few of those unworthy brats died, as long as I intervene, they're sure to have a chance." Watching Edward trembling all over upon hearing the news, shaking slightly with excitement, the third-generation elder ignored Leon's dagger-like stare, disdainfully grumbling, It's all the Watcher's Palace's fault. With this safety net, now each generation is worse than the one before. After you carried the coffin away, the six-faced elephant deer tore through Cliff of Doomsday and dragged a good portion over, getting several of those brats put down in one go. I expected you wouldn't manage, but not to that extent. If it weren't for my quick reaction, those dragged-down brats wouldn't have made it back. Those who fell off Cliff of Doomsday can actually return. How is it not only your strength is lacking, your brain too? Immediately sensing the Scorpio Bureau chief's confusion, the third-generation director scoffed, pointing to the corpse of the six-faced elephant deer. Look, didn't it come back after going down? But it wasn't. After reflexively saying something, the Scorpio Bureau chief realized something, staring back shocked. Did you lay a ban on our souls like you did with the six-faced elephant deer? Pretty much. Realizing something was off, I slipped a little something into each of your souls to keep them light, preventing them from plummeting to the bottom of Cliff of Doomsday to be fully decomposed. Simply explaining what he did, the third-generation elder snorted. Though I lack a soul, just lingering resolve, I can't become an overlord of the dead realm. But having stayed here for years, the Sage's Cemetery is my territory now. I'm no good in fights, but ensuring a safe bottom line is manageable. Moreover, you young ones are truly unguarded, not a defensive bone in your body, especially your generation's Taurus, the dumbest of the lot. After giving Taurus's director a huge thumbs down, the third-generation elder sneered. Before the six-faced elephant deer leaped out, I'd already crafted things. Later, as chaos ensued, I used the escaping vapors, hidden in the mists of the Sage's Cemetery, to sneak things into your souls. Others might not get smithing and fail to notice, but while Taurus learned secret smithing techniques passably, upon sensing something amiss, she immediately forgot her brain, never noticing my odd actions. You all were the same, except for who knows who. None of you caught on, and had anyone else been the perpetrator, not six-faced elephant deer, you'd all be history. Seeing the third-generation elder's dissatisfaction, the corners of Edward's mouth twitched fiercely. The words aren't wrong, but the Sage's Cemetery being the only stronghold of the Bureau in the realm of the dead has always been your domain, and for the ambush we all lay in coffins of your choice. Who else would allow us to be so compliant? Moreover, with your nemesis the six-faced elephant deer storming in, who'd guess you wouldn't confront them, but instead seized the chance to meddle with our souls? Oops, not quite, someone indeed did notice. Turning to look at the who knows who whispering with Emma, the Scorpio Bureau chief asked with a complicated expression. So, did you and the third generation sir plan all this together? Did you know of the third generation's plan from the start? Not from the very start, but I was somewhat aware. As if recalling some unpleasant memories, Leon nodded, his face not looking too good. I discovered he was trying to slip some fur into my soul. He then dove into the coffin, requesting I help with his plan of ambushing at the gate of the deceased, where the rites of death are weakest, to attempt consuming the defeated avatar of the six-faced elephant deer. So that's how it was. Nodding in realization, the Scorpio Bureau chief let out a long sigh, then curiously inquired, "What fur are you talking about?" "A special anomaly crafted by the third generation, sir." Seeing Leon's strained expression, Edward shuddered all over, immediately thinking of something as he stared back in disbelief. In Edward's terrified gaze, the third generation elder grinned, revealing a rather kind smile, while also tugging up his pants. "Look at you, there's no need to rush." As the expression of the Scorpio Bureau chief escalated from fear to a full-blown distortion due to his cleanliness obsession, the third generation elder clutched his pants and explained with a chuckle. "What I placed into your souls is actually my belt. It's just that the material for this belt is hair. Although I never became a pillar god, I at least reached that certain figure of 80 points as a human. Naturally, my body became an excellent forging material, even surpassing the 4 supreme pillar gods. So after I died, I processed my corpse a bit. My hair was collected, mixed with some other materials, and woven into a belt for special emergencies. As you know, I'm not very powerful, I have a poor relationship with the realm of the dead, and I spend most of my time in the sage's cemetery. What if one of the overlords of the dead realm suddenly decides to take action against me and breaks me? So to avoid being bullied, I specially forged this belt into a life-saving anomalous object tailored to the conditions of the realm of the dead. Even if one falls down the cliff of the end, it can still float back up. I just didn't expect that it would be used by you before I had the chance. Is that so? After hearing the explanation from the third-generation elder, the twisted face of the Scorpio bureau chief finally calmed down a bit, and he then turned to Leon with a probing look. Leon, after a moment of silence, expressionlessly asked back, "Does it make a difference?" Cough, cough, cough. There is a difference. Before the expression of the Scorpio bureau chief could twist again, the third-generation elder cleared his throat and interrupted. "It seems like the realm of the dead has stabilized again. My belt can only delay death, not completely avoid it. So let's hurry and fetch the others. Dragging any longer wouldn't be good." This old guy, there's definitely something off about him. Watching as the third-generation elder disappeared into an ebony coffin, Leon couldn't help but flex the hand that had previously grabbed a collar, a strange light flickering in his eyes. Ever since he learned he could gain information about anomalous objects through touch, the third-generation elder seemed to be deliberately keeping distance from him, avoiding any direct physical contact. The most he could touch was the clothes he wore. Even more eerie, the dead man didn't wear clothes that were manifestations of soul memory like other deceased, but rather a bona fide ordinary clothing that existed independently of his soul. When Leon attempted to go further and tried to touch the flesh of the third-generation elder on a pretext, his fingertips passed through nothing, as if the elder was merely a formless obsession. Not only his body, but the coffin was also the same. Leon could touch any other coffin in the cemetery except this one. Even though he and Emma could lie inside together, when he tried to touch this coffin, he couldn't feel or gather any information at all. So he's definitely guarding against me. Maybe not just against me. Leon quickly reviewed the information about the third-generation elder in his mind and noticed some suspicious points. Squinting slightly, he went over these thoughts. The realm of the dead is definitely not a pleasant place. The six-faced elephant deer had been driven mad from staying too long. Yet the third-generation elder lived apart from the bureau and stayed permanently in the sage's cemetery. Didn't he feel uncomfortable? Moreover, every time a new Taurus chairman came to power, the third-generation elder would promptly come over and only return to the living world after the Taurus chairman died of old age. This was also full of inexplicable elements. According to him, if he couldn't become the strongest blacksmith among the living, he aimed to be the strongest blacksmith among the dead. It sounded reasonable, but was that the real reason? Or was he deliberately avoiding something? Though the thoughts were complex and lengthy in terms of mental speed, it all occurred in just a blink of an eye. After glancing at the coffin of the third-generation elder, Leon didn't continue probing into his secrets, but instead retrieved two coffin-bearing demons from the mirror world and tossed them toward the third-generation elder's coffin. The third-generation elder already knew about his ability. If he had to investigate thoroughly, a direct showdown would be inevitable, but Leon couldn't ascertain his situation at all. Not to mention, the potential anomalous objects on him were deceptively dangerous. He only used his own hair to make a belt that could evade death, so where were the other parts? Body, bones, blood, marrow, fingers, teeth, skin, sinews, facial features, organs, limbs, torso. The third-generation elder would even utilize his own hair, so how could these evidently superior materials possibly be wasted? "Are you too dumb?" The urging voice of the third-generation elder emerged, interrupting Leon's thoughts. He poked his head out of the coffin, glanced at the two camouflaged demons bearing the coffin, and said disdainfully, "How can two people lift a coffin if they're both holding the middle? If my body wasn't already decomposed, my bones would have been flung out by you two fools." "Have you settled down?" Half lying in the inky void, gazing up at the precipitous cliff above, the cancer chairman, who was slowly descending with a strand of curled hair wrapped around his neck, couldn't help but wiggle from the constriction and then asked in confusion. When you were thrown down just now, did you feel like you suddenly lost control? Yes. After a considerable silence, the Sagittarius chairman, floating 20 meters away, finally opened his eyes, blankly shaking his twisted limbs, and answered, I was ready to perish together with the sculptor, but then my soul was yanked. The secret technique failed to activate, and I was knocked down by the lantern held by the faceless man. Me too. The drowsy Pisces chairman pondered and then added, when I was targeted by the digging earthworm, I considered forsaking my body and transferring my soul into its body, dragging its consciousness into a dream to utterly disable the six-faced elephant deer's avatar. But just as I was about to do it, my soul was also tugged and then I was swept down as well. Joan, were you the same too? Not in my case. Cough. The Taurus chairman, with blood seeping continuously from his front placket, coughed and shook his head, puzzled. I just simply lost. The previous incident at the Watcher's Palace left my soul always lacking. The joint pull from Grandma Crow-Eye and the sculptor nearly ripped my soul from my body. By the way, how are the others? Were only the four of us knocked down? Are Capricorn and the other chiefs safe? The others shouldn't have too much trouble. After brushing the strange hair on his neck, the Sagittarius director frowned and replied, out of the four of us, Cancer and I are at the end of our lifespans, and you and Pisces have soul deficiencies. We've been thoroughly restrained by the authority of death. After being directly hit by the cliff of the end, it's naturally inescapable. The remaining Capricorn and the directors of the Zodiac Bureau, though equally unable to rival the Pillar Gods, are much further from death than we are and have stronger resistance to the authority of death. Retreating after exhaustion isn't difficult for them. It's not just that. The Cancer director, who was swaying on the other side, chimed in. I was the last to be pulled down. When I was hit, the lamp that could communicate with the cliff of the end had already been shattered by Capricorn and the others teaming up. Without that lamp, it's impossible for the six-faced elephant deer to drag the cliff of the end over again. Phew, that's good then. After hearing the words of the Cancer and Sagittarius directors, the Pisces director, looking drowsy, couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief, then forced himself to speak energetically. When we came down, the dead workshop master and Grandma Crow-Eye were completely incapacitated. Only half a body of the yellow river worm remained, and 2.5 incarnations of the six-faced elephant deer were gone. Now, with the lamp capable of moving the cliff of the end shattered, dealing with it isn't difficult anymore. Cough, cough. But we still couldn't stop it. After coughing painfully twice, the Taurus director beside them sighed. Even though half is missing, as long as the six-faced elephant deer brings the authority of death back to the living world, it will certainly bring a massive amount of death. There's nothing we could do. I tried my best, even at the cost of my life. The Cancer director sighed in response, his eyes filled with helplessness. If it were in the living world or the astral realm, I could block a pillar god one-on-one, but this time we were acting in the realm of the dead. It's like stepping directly into someone's domain, and we all had our problems restrained terribly. If things had gone according to the plan with only the faceless man and the artisan as the pillar god rulers, we could have definitely won. But who would have known another one, the six-faced elephant deer, would appear? In a world where death is the primary authority, facing 6 full-power death pillar gods, getting this result is already not bad. Besides, if it weren't for the soul's sudden problem, I think I could have taken another one down. Speaking of which, Joan, don't you feel like your soul was tampered with at all? I really don't have that sensation. Seeing the other 3 directors' gazes, Taurus director couldn't help but check his soul once again, then shook his head. Everything's truly normal. I'm very sure my soul hasn't been tampered with. But you guys, if your souls were tampered with, how come you're only noticing something's wrong now? Why aren't you saying anything? Let me speak. After a moment of silence, the Sagittarius director opened up with a complex expression. Joan, who acted against us, might very well be the 3rd-generation master. I think so too. On the side, the Cancer director nodded, analyzing with a not very upbeat face. After reaching the realm of the dead, we've always been staying in the sage's cemetery, protected by its rules. Even if the six-faced elephant deer is strong, it's impossible to bypass the third-generation master's perception and tamper with our souls silently. Thus, the only one who could have schemed against us is the third-generation master. But that doesn't make sense. Taurus Director hesitated a moment, then confusingly questioned. The third-generation master must have a reason to scheme against us, right? What's his objective? If you talk about my objective, it's, of course, to save your lives. Hearing that familiar voice from above, the four directors in their huddle couldn't help but look up. In their faces brimming with astonishment, a sparse-haired square skull was peering over the cliff, showing a triumphant smile. Third-generation master? Seeing that old face on the cliff, the four directors floating below the cliff of the end were stunned, then hastily inquired, "Why are you here? Where's the six-faced elephant deer? Did Capricorn and the others win?" "No win. Capricorn, that little brat, ran away." Looking at the severely wounded four directors below, especially the gravely injured Taurus Director floating at the lowest point, the third-generation master grinned with wrinkles piling up on his old face. "After you all got swept down, Capricorn noticed something was off and decided fighting on would be pointless. He immediately forced open a heavenly path, sending the other brats to Heavenly Mountain. But since Heavenly Mountain is too far from the realm of the dead, it'll probably take them more than half a month to get there. If they want to come back, it'll be more than a month or so." So, after completing this mission, all the Zodiac directors successfully retreated, and it's just the four of us directors who were taken down. What sort of expression is that? Seeing the somewhat strained emotions of the directors, the third-generation master's smile suddenly dropped, and he scolded with a stern face. "Capricorn didn't sell you out. He was just making sure to retreat timely to preserve some living strength for the Bureau. You should learn from him instead of always wanting to go down together with the enemy. Even if you sacrificed everything to take down 2 more incarnations of the six-faced elephant deer, so what after that? The Bureau would lose 4 directors in one go. Who then would hold the fort? Should we absorb the land's descendants into the Bureau and give them a director's seat or 2? If old folks like me weren't cautious enough to do some maneuvering beforehand and pull you back at the critical moment, you wouldn't even have a chance to be floating under the cliff of the end. If we remember correctly, weren't you the one who urged us to go up earlier? Now, why are you reprimanding us for being reckless? Is it that you want to take credit and blame both?" Irritated by the third-generation master's high-ground words, the directors' formerly suspended hearts finally settled back down safely in their chests, seeing the apparent relief and triumph on his face. "Third-generation master." After calling out loudly and interrupting the third-generation master's reprimand, the Sagittarius director shouted, "What happened to the six-faced elephant deer? Since you're here, it should be resolved already, right?" "Of course." The third-generation master raised his eyebrows at that. Then, as he clung to the cliff, he replied with full pride, "Under my command, that person used the anomaly I forged and set up an ambush at the spot I designated, taking out the six-faced elephant deer before it could enter the living world. Haha! Now do you see why I'm the fiercest director? Even without the power from back then, I still have the brains." Seeing the 4 directors' faces below filled with joy, the third-generation master proudly hummed with his head slightly tilted upwards. "You little brats, just now really doubted me. If I hadn't schemed against you, could the six-faced elephant deer have been handled so easily this time? If only 2 incarnations had died, the six-faced elephant deer would definitely have been tempted to check the living world. But if you guys had fought it out to kill 4 or 5 incarnations, it would need to recuperate well before trying to return. Hey? Keep still, you few, no fidgeting. Otherwise, it's hard to aim." Shouting to the cliff below for a couple of times, letting the directors stabilize their bodies, the third-generation master glanced at Leon, who was quietly reloading behind him, then cheerfully shouted to the cliff below, "Even though none of you died, not all of you can be saved." After killing the six-faced elephant deer, That person only has 2 bolt shots left, so he can save at most 2 people. As for the remaining 2, they'll have to keep floating down there until he slays 2 more pillar gods before there's a chance to rescue them. So what do you say? Which 2 to come up? Only 2 people can be rescued immediately? After hearing the notice from the 3rd generation director, the 4 directors at the bottom of the cliff of the end exchanged glances. Then the cancer director was the first to speak, waving a hand and saying, "You guys decide. I don't have many years left anyway. Even if I go up, I'll have to come back down soon, so there's no need to bother." Cough, cough. Don't. The Taurus director shook his head at these words, stopping him by saying, "You are the most suitable to go up among us. Currently, no one can perfectly succeed the belly god's prison. Even if it can be temporarily sealed by other means, it's still safest with you watching over it." Joan is right. The Sagittarius director beside nodded slightly and then spoke expressionlessly. "We are the directors of the cleaning bureau. We must consider the bureau's situation first. Currently, the cleaners who inherited Cancer's secret technique have not yet matured, lacking suitable replacements, so you should go up. In contrast, many have initiated into Sagittarius's secret techniques, and they can be used jointly. Even if I, as a director, am not around, there will be others to take over when Sagittarius's secret techniques are needed. Besides, I also have limited years left, so I'm the one who should stay. It's the same for me." After the Sagittarius director's analysis, the Taurus director calmly added, "The 3rd generation director's achievements in secret smithing techniques surpass mine and can perfectly replace my position until the next Taurus director emerges. So I should be the one to stay." "I also." "You should go up." Interrupting the Pisces director, the Taurus director coughed like a bellows, then warmly persuaded, "Your soul condition is quite special, with 4 souls taking turns controlling the body. The erosion from the Death Authority would be heavier, so for safety's sake, it's most suitable for you and Cancer to go up together." Right. Then let's decide on it." Seeing that the Taurus and Sagittarius directors decided to stay, the 3rd generation old man lying at the top of the cliff of the end nodded repeatedly, then joyously turned back to call out, "Hey you! Come on, open fire. Quickly shoot those 2 kids up." "Okay." Looking at the 3rd generation old man's wide, beaming smile, Leon nodded in response, then carried his sniper rifle to the edge of the cliff and shot the Taurus director's head. "Damn, missed." Noticing the stiff smile on the 3rd generation director's face, Leon's fair complexion slightly reddened, and with a look of guilt, he offered a sincere apology. "I'm really sorry. My shooting skills are quite rusty. Perhaps you could discuss it again." "You kiddo." As the aura of death quickly receded with the bullet, uncontrollably floating up from the bottom of the cliff of the end, the first resurrected Taurus director helplessly looked at Leon, momentarily at a loss for words. Missing like that was clearly just a bit of nonsense because, due to Olivia, Leon had the best relationship with himself among the directors. This kid clearly couldn't bear to see himself suffering below, so he intentionally shot him first. It's okay. This is fine too. Just when the Taurus director couldn't decide whether to say something or not to Leon, the voice of the Pisces director called up from below the cliff of the end. "I only get affected when switching souls. Taurus's soul itself is incomplete, making the situation much worse for her. It's best if she goes up. As for the remaining opportunity, give it to Cancer. If he doesn't go up, Belly God's prison will have no one to manage it." Glancing apologetically at the Pisces director, Leon raised the gun again to aim, and this time, his aim was much more accurate. With a bang, he shot the Cancer director cleanly on the forehead, efficiently bringing him up. Though feeling somewhat sorry for the Pisces director, this confirms that the 3rd generation old man indeed dodges every generation of Taurus. Glancing at the 3rd generation old man, who looked like he had lost everything, Leon confirmed his suspicion and then shouted down to the 2 directors left below. "Lord Sagittarius, Lord Pisces, don't worry. I will quickly find and slay 2 pillar gods to bring you up soon." "You make it sound Like pillar gods are common vegetables you can buy anytime on the street. Hearing Leon's words, the directors couldn't help but feel awkward. Even the tourist director, who had the most confidence in him, couldn't help but advise him not to act recklessly. And after Leon repeatedly nodded agreeing and assured them he wouldn't act rashly, he silently opened the badge panel and equipped a brand new gray death badge. Through a literally death-filled battle, you have successfully completed an unprecedented hunt, devouring all entities above true God in the realm of the dead. Your gold-grade hidden badge, Gluttonous Demon, has successfully advanced to an anomaly-colored hidden badge. I am the end of death, Ash. I am the end of death. Anomaly, Ash, non-upgradable life is a journey towards death, and death is a destined festival. All that lives melts into death, like water vanishing into water. Then I drink it all. Equipping effect. After causing fatal damage to any living being, you will temporarily gain the special state Drinker. Drinker. When a new dead drop passes through the sky of the dead realm and is sent by you into the great lake beneath the cliff of the end, you will appear in this crystal-clear lake. If you find this drop in the lake and choose to drink it, regardless of how massive this new dead drop is, it will completely return to the world's origin, being given an equal end. Advancement path. Achieved the highest level, cannot advance further. Hidden trait. Your existence has already invaded part of the death rules. Hence all pillar gods who grasp the world's principles will immediately understand upon you equipping this badge that being killed by you doesn't result in awaiting revival but faces the most thorough end. As Leon equipped the badge, I am the end of death. Emma beside him was slightly stunned, immediately casting a gaze full of surprise, while from the direction of the third-generation old man came a near-simultaneous boom like a drumbeat.
Sorry.
Receiving the puzzled gazes from everyone, the third-generation old man quickly clutched his chest, chuckling awkwardly. I am feeling a bit uncomfortable. Well, since the people have been saved, I'll head back. Seems like aside from hair and waist belt, the third-generation director's heart, when alive, was probably also utilized by him. Watching the third-generation old man, not even glancing at himself but rather clutching his chest hard, hurrying into a coffin, Leon said nothing, instead turning to Emma beside him, inquiring purposefully. Emma, Senior, now that you've become the new overlord of the dead realm, what are your plans? What plans do I have? Hearing this, Emma blinked, almost instantly grasping Leon's meaning. I'm not that familiar with the dead realm. Do you have any suggestions?
Ido.
Glancing at the hidden trait column of materialism, with a death realm resolution as high as 49.9%, Leon couldn't help but smile, his eyes flickering as he said, the current dead realm is too cruel. The process of helping the deceased return to the world is too painful. We might as well make it more gentle. Let's start by adding 18 layers of hell. The 18th layer of hell? Seeing Leon, who seemed to have had some peculiar switch triggered, suddenly brimming with enthusiasm, the two board members who were dragged up became tense all over. Their hearts, which had just calmed down not long ago, skipped a beat. While the methods the realm of the dead uses to handle the deceased do seem excessively cruel, but this 18th layer of hell doesn't sound much better than the original, does it? You've misunderstood. The hell I'm talking about isn't one everyone has to go to. There's obviously a series of evaluations first, and only the wicked are thrown in. Glancing at the two board members who seemed a bit overwhelmed, Leon, holding administrator rights for the first time, couldn't help but suppress his eager desire to replicate, taking the initiative to explain. Before we took over the realm of the dead, humans had to suffer here in vain after death. If even after we take over, they still suffer here in vain, wouldn't that defeat the purpose? So my thought is we either do nothing, or if we do, we should go all the way. We should find a way to completely bind the realm of the dead and the living world together, or even make it part of the rules of the living world. Make the realm of the dead part of the rules of the living world. Following this train of thought for a bit, the Taurus board member, who was fairly familiar with Leon's habits, vaguely grasped something and asked, frowning, You mean, Abandon the concealment of the existence of the realm of the dead, so that the living world completely knows about its existence. Yes. Leon nodded, his eyes quite determined as he said, Cognition is world. Since the 10 offsprings of the Great Hall could separate part of the world from the living world through their clan's consensus, we can naturally do the reverse. I propose to perhaps loosen some of the powers of the illusion letting the message of the existence of the realm of the dead spread in the living world. And when the consensus becomes, the souls after death must go to the realm of the dead, then return to the living world, there is a high probability that the realm of the dead, which was originally separate from the living world, will slowly approach and eventually bind with it completely. This is indeed possible. But what good does it do? Habitually rubbing his big belly, the Cancer board member expressed confusion. The more anomalies that ordinary people come into contact with, the higher their Leon value becomes, and the more likely it is for anomalous events to occur or be triggered, necessitating more cleaners to handle them. But after doing this, more cleaners can also be born, which will equally strengthen the power of the cleaning bureau. Looking at the expressions of the two board members, Leon organized his thoughts for a moment and then seriously spoke. Sir Taurus, Sir Cancer, to be frank, I actually believe there's always been a big problem with our Bureau's attitude towards anomalies and anomalous events in the past. Our thoughts and actions regarding newly born anomalies and events have always been focused on how to suppress the situation and how to quickly eliminate the influence. This approach is too passive, and with the current manpower, it's simply not manageable. So instead of trying to minimize everyone's contamination value and chasing after the outbreaks of anomalous events to extinguish them everywhere, it might be better to slightly loosen some of the suppression and conversely increase the number of potential cleaners. Leon, actually, the idea you propose has already been tried by our Bureau's predecessors before, but the result was not very good. The Taurus board member sighed, looking none too pleased as he said, There was once a honeymoon period between the Bureau and the Moonfolk. The 8th generation Ophiuchus board member temporarily lifted the concealment of the blood moon for a month, allowing it to shine on the land for 3 to 5 seconds at midnight each day, raising some citizens' Leon value by about 0.5. The purpose was to foster a group of cleaners, and by the end of the year, the number of level 3 cleaners at the Ophiuchus Subbureau did increase by 30%, but anomalous events simultaneously surged by 200%, and most of them were malignant, causing considerable casualties. After that, this kind of attempt was completely halted, and the 8th generation Ophiuchus board member was dismissed and sent to guard the astral realm for over 80 years, never returning before passing away. So the cleaning bureau had previously made similar attempts? Somewhat surprised, Leon glanced at the Taurus board member, then briefly fell silent before tentatively speaking. Sir Taurus, could it be that the reason the 8th generation Ophiuchus board member didn't succeed wasn't due to his flawed thinking, but rather the problem lies with the world itself? Sir Taurus, did you know that in most of the kingdoms of the living world, the majority of people actually live very hard lives? Just living stably is difficult for them. After organizing his thoughts a bit, Leon flipped through the mirror world, found a wristwatch with 6 hands, and handed it over while patiently explaining. I've studied the abnormal genesis sorcery of the Aquarius Palace, so I have some understanding of the birth of anomalies. According to the theories of Aquarius' secret techniques, the birth of most anomalies requires meeting certain conditions. A past filled with suffering or a great future, a special soul or body, intense emotions or an obsessive personality. Each of these 3 sets of traits must contain at least one, and the capability and tendency of the anomalies birthed are inevitably related to these traits. And for those involved in that attempt, the most easily assembled formula for birthing anomalies is painful experiences, plus a body exposed to the blood moon, plus explosive negative emotions. And the anomalies born through this negative formula naturally have negative effects. Having gained abilities surpassing ordinary humans, they would naturally not immediately forget their past suffering, but would begin to instinctively retaliate wildly until they are in turn contaminated by anomalies, ultimately losing control completely and becoming indiscriminate anomalies that attack everyone. I see. Hearing this, the Cancer board member who had been frowning in contemplation couldn't help but brighten in realization. You mean to use the situation in that hell to promote the concept that people must suffer for their evil deeds after death, thus intimidating the living into reducing their evil acts, thereby decreasing the prevalence of negative trait anomalies? Not intimidation, but a warning. Or you could call it deterrence. Adjusting the too blunt wording of the Cancer board member, Leon, with gleaming eyes, added, "Moreover, the deterrence of the realm of the dead alone isn't enough. We also need to leverage the Bureau's influence over the royal families of various kingdoms, requiring them to improve the current situation. Otherwise, it would just be a stopgap measure. After all, the root of the problem is with the royal families. Well, it's due to the overly arduous lives most people lead. As long as this issue isn't resolved, the majority of newly born anomalies will still be malignant. Transforming the realm of the dead, deterring the present world, intervening with the 12 kingdoms, alleviating the suffering of most people, leaking the news of the realm of the dead to increase the contamination value, cultivating more controllable positive abnormal items, increasing the number of cleaners, strengthening the cleansing bureau." After pondering Leon's comprehensive plan, the Taurus director and the Cancer director exchanged glances, seeing an inexplicable brilliance in each other's eyes. The proposal put forth by Aquarius seems truly feasible, and if this really succeeds, if these can be achieved, not only can we alleviate the gradually deteriorating situation, but we might even catch up with the footsteps of former directors and make the cleansing bureau great again. Seeing the two's interest, Leon decisively threw out a "make the cleansing bureau awesome again," leaving the two dizzy. He then switched to the master performer persona and persuasively encouraged, "Honorable Taurus, honorable Cancer, the present world is simply too vast, and our numbers are too few. Our 87 branch bureaus vary in size, the largest with hundreds of people, and the smallest with just a few dozen. With the world so big, a few thousand people simply can't manage it all. I've reviewed the Bureau's records, and the shortage of personnel in the Cleansing Bureau isn't recent. For hundreds, even thousands of years, we've been desperately trying to patch holes everywhere. The fewer the personnel, the more dangerous it becomes to execute tasks, resulting in a consistently high casualty rate, which further exacerbates the shortage of personnel. This has almost become a vicious cycle. However, if we can accomplish what I'm suggesting, the number of cleaners might increase tenfold, 20-fold, or even more. By then, the overall situation in the present world will surely improve dramatically. You hold on. Let me think for a moment." The Taurus director, overwhelmed by Leon's grand vision, coughed slightly, took a deep breath to calm down, and then tried to rationally pose a question. "But malice seems to be the source of our damaging abilities. If all items become positive anomalies, the Cleansing Bureau's destructive capabilities might diminish considerably. Even if we deal with the Slaughter King Association, new outer gods will surely come in from the stars. By then, our Cleansing Bureau personnel will have increased tenfold. If the anomalies in the present world are unsuitable, we can just use others." Leon raised an eyebrow, responding, "Aren't there places like the Abyss and Heavenly Mountain? The Holy Spirit Realm, Source God Platform, for Broken Realms, various outer gods. There are countless sources for forging anomalous items. Just go out and capture them, right? We can leave, they can't enter, so why can't we catch whatever we want? Especially the demons in the Abyss. Given the current number of people in the Cleansing Bureau, capturing a few hells at random is enough to outfit every cleaner with a full set of demonic anomalous items. And as more cleaners are trained, more people will learn Taurus's secret techniques, thereby forging stronger anomalies. These can be used to capture greater demons, forge even stronger anomalies, train more skilled cleaners, and then we'll reach the stars." No, wait. Hold on. Faced with Leon's increasingly outrageous future plans, even the silent Cancer director found it a bit too much to handle, unconsciously stepping back a couple of steps. The current Cleansing Bureau is clearly struggling, and even a mission to the realm of the dead resulted in a massive failure, nearly annihilating them entirely. Yet, after Leon's analysis, the situation suddenly looked promising, even considering outward expansion. This This shouldn't wait. Understanding that the larger and older an organization is, the more difficult it is to enact change, and knowing that the two remaining directors were on good terms with him, Leon decided to strike while the iron was hot. With a serious expression, he reminded them, "Honorable Taurus, Honorable Cancer, if we start taking action now, training qualified cleaners will take time, and for them to grow to the second, third, or even first level will take even longer. You both know the current state of the Bureau. Many of the 87 branch directors don't even possess true God-level power. Even Edward serves as a Zodiac director. The situation is dire, and I don't need to spell it out. Moreover, during the recent selection for the 5 palaces, I've interacted with the new generation within the Bureau, and potential cleaners are scarce. Once you and the other senior directors step down, it will take 3 to 5 decades or more for new directors to reach your level. These are crises. Gentlemen, let me be blunt, how much longer can you shield the new generation? I can wait for you, but our enemies won't." Goodness, is this what young people are like? Is Aquarius's vigor a bit much? Retreating step by step under Leon's words, the two directors, unable to bear it any longer, exchanged another glance, recalling the previous meeting. At the last board meeting, when discussing whether to attack the realm of the dead, this young man was rather aggressive. Back then, we thought it was just courage and lack of stage fright since it was his first board meeting and he was speaking freely. We thought it was worth encouraging. But now, it seems he wasn't just speaking freely then. He was definitely holding back. Aquarius's demeanor and attitude demonstrate he was already being extremely cautious. Last time, he only suggested teaching the realm of the dead a lesson, not eliminating it entirely. It's evident he couldn't have been more restrained. No, wait. The realm of the dead seems to have been completely eliminated, right? Leon, you're right. This set of MAK cleansing be awesome came too suddenly. In haste, unable to find reasons to refute, the Taurus director had to concede to Leon's view, waving a hand with a wry smile and seeking mercy. But this matter is really enormous. It not only requires modifying the effectiveness range of the illusion sending people to repeatedly press the 12 kingdoms, but it also involves amending at least 30 forbidden laws, reversing thousands of years of bureau practice in one go. Leon, it's not that I want to refuse. Your proposal currently looks promising, but you need to give us old folks a little time to think it over and see if there are any loopholes. Okay. All right then. Glancing at the two directors who had retreated to the edge of the cliff of the end, knowing they were near their limit of acceptance, Leon had no choice but to sigh and agree. Take your time to discuss. I'll first go back to the front with Senior Emma to try to modify the ghost gate today.
Ghost Gate?
It's the former gate of the deceased. What is this? Looking at the deceased souls staggering forward in the gray mist filled with the aura of death, gazing into the thick fog to catch glimpses of the immense gateway behind it, the man with an axe embedded in the back of his head, the male soul stood frozen on the spot. Dead? Am I already dead? He tried to recall the memories left before his death, remembering the enchanting singing voice and the sudden whistle of the wind behind his ears. The man finally confirmed his current predicament and couldn't help but feel a wave of despair wash over him. I must really be dead. After the royal ship of the Kingdom of Sao was towed away some time ago, the area around the Sea of Shrouded Moon became a haven for sirens, and passing sailors often went mad from their songs, jumping ship and swimming towards the reefs to their deaths. So he took on an assignment from his superior, bringing the mute music box to drive away the siren colony. But halfway through the task, the ship's first mate went mad first, grabbing the big axe meant for cutting cables and started swinging it around wildly. Right when he was distracted in manipulating the music box, damn it, did I just die like that? Resisting the pull of the gate of the deceased with a soul far superior in quality to ordinary souls, the man with the axe in his head couldn't help but hug his head, shouting with unwillingness in his eyes, "How could this happen? I was once a level 2 cleaner who had gone through the promotion assessment with the food god and returned alive. Yet I got chopped to death like this? And in such a stupid way? Hey, you over there. What are you doing?" Noticing this peculiar existence, within the two lines of black and white souls outside the gate of the deceased, A soul each walked out quickly, equipped with shackles, and rushed over briskly, reprimanding harshly. Get in quickly. The souls of the deceased cannot linger outside. Move, move, move. Don't block the people behind. Otherwise, we'll have to lock you up. No. Who are they again? Looking at the strange souls in front of him wearing peculiar tall hats, holding clubs and shackles urging him to enter the gate of the deceased. The man's mind went a bit blank. Then he asked, somewhat dumbfounded, "Who are you guys? Didn't the gate of the deceased get managed by the food god? This guy actually knows the food god. Is he a deceased cleaner?" After listening to the man's curious inquiry, the attitude of the black and white souls softened slightly. Then, seemingly a bit awkward as if unaccustomed, introduced themselves stiffly. "We are black. Temporarily black and temporarily white. I don't know why we're called this, but that's just what we're called. Currently, there's no overlord of the dead realm guarding Ghost Gate, so we've been asked to maintain order here."
Ghost Gate?
It's the former gate of the deceased. Considering that the Axehead man was a cleaner, the temporarily white whose face was flaking white chalk explained softly, then pointed to the gate of the deceased shrouded in gray mist in the distance. "Look, isn't it written up there?" Following the pale finger of temporarily white towards the gate of the deceased, the Axehead man couldn't help but gape with a bewildered look. An enormous archway built of stone pillars had replaced the originally separated gate of the deceased, standing at this boundary between life and death. And in the center of this strange structure of blue bricks, black tiles, and flying eaves on four corners, a gigantic rectangular plaque was nailed, with strange symbols that were probably supposed to be letters on it, emanating a faintly unsettling red glow. Those three symbols mean Ghost Gate. Isn't there a translation below? There's a translation? Momentarily stunned by the black and white soul's words, the Axehead man quickly squinted to look and verified that underneath the three symbols, indeed, there was a corresponding translation. However, before he could take a closer look, the two souls gave him a shove and urged somewhat impatiently. Hurry up, you've stayed long enough already. Even as a cleaner you can't just block the way. Quickly go in and register." "What? I still need to register even after dying. Why are you asking me? This is what your cleaning bureau's food. Ahem. This is set by the higher-ups, we're just following orders. Hurry up. Go register quickly. Then you need to head to Huangquan Road." Huangquan Road. Isn't it the no-return path? It's painted yellow now. What? Ah no. The temporarily white, who had just let slip, hurriedly corrected himself. Well, according to what was said above, the name No Return Path doesn't sound auspicious. And though the path is still there, it doesn't hold its original function anymore, so they simply changed the name. Why do you have so many questions? Go on, move along. Though having a million questions in his heart, under the urgent prodding of the black and white temporarily, the Axehead man could only quickly walk towards the greatly transformed gate of the deceased, picking up a form on a desk beside the door. "Hello." Smiling broadly, revealing 8 shiny white teeth, the female soul behind the desk dressed in a black and white suit, a fairly good-looking woman, guided with a smile. "Mr. Deceased, age, gender, address, cause of death. These mandatory fields need to be filled in first. Even if you're illiterate, you can rely on your soul's understanding to fill it out. This form only accepts the truth from the soul. Additionally, the sections below, regrets in life, societal achievements, surviving family, special contributions, are optional. You can fill them if you want, or leave them blank if you don't. However, it's recommended to fill them out if you can, as though they're optional. They may influence your post-death reemployment direction and related job benefits, even affecting your promotion speed in the relevant department. Post-death reemployment, with the possibility of promotion, and benefits too. Is this still the realm of the dead? Where did you bring me? Holding the extremely bizarre form in his hand, the Axehead man felt his axe almost unbefitting, and he asked in a dazed stupor, You're. We are the Cleansing Bureau's branch in the realm of the dead. Recently established, tentatively named the Underworld Bureau, with Lady Emma as the director. You can check the header, it has the Cleansing Bureau's logo. After looking at the dung, sacred scarab on the header, the Axehead man finally closed his mouth, then exclaimed with wide-eyed shock, "Has the Bureau already taken over the entire realm of the dead?" The Bureau? Having caught on to this key term astutely, the female soul in the suit couldn't help but squint her eyes slightly, her smile becoming even warmer, and then she actively spoke. "Esteemed Mr. Deceased, if you were a cleaner during your lifetime, that counts as a Level 3 special contribution, and after filling the form you can take the fast track, directly heading to the Hall of Judgment to receive the judge's verdict." Judgment? Did I commit a crime? Sir, judgment isn't necessarily for crimes. It can also be for merits. Quickly glanced at the memo board next to the desk, reviewing the work procedures set by the new overlord of the realm of the dead, the female soul explained slightly enviously. According to the rules set, if you accumulated substantial merit during your career as a cleaner, you would receive corresponding compensation in the realm of the dead. If your work was sufficiently diligent, your accumulated merit significant enough, and having no outrageous crimes, with your soul and body meeting the standards, you might even be arranged to undergo the resurrection process, live to 150 and come back then. Ah? Well, Leon. Floating right above the city of regret, watching tens of thousands of souls shouting rhythmically, trying to excavate the city of regret from the swamp, Taurus director couldn't help but say with a tense face, "Wasn't the city of regret sunk by you? Why are you digging it out now? And since you are almost half an overlord of the dead realm, if you did it yourself, it should be faster than them, right?" "It's different." Leon shook his head in response. "I only control half of the powers of death, so without breaking the fundamental rules of the dead realm, I can only transform half of it. For things that others can do, it's better to let them handle it, even if it's slower. As for why we're excavating the city of regret, not all departed souls can completely let go of their regrets. They still need a place to stay, and I've recruited quite a few employees for the Netherworld Bureau. They can't work all the time, they need some other form of life. If we excavate the city of regret and the ruins of Spirit Stepping Square, then clean them up nicely, one can be used for their living, and the other can host shops and entertainment so they don't live or die too bored. But, isn't this a bit too good?" After squinting and observing the souls below, and seeing the vitality on their pale, deathly faces that almost rivals the living, Cancer director couldn't help but comment with a complex expression. "Leon, according to your plan, the future life of souls in the dead realm might not be worse than in the living world. Making the dead realm so pleasant, will the dead still be willing to journey to the cliff of the end?" "They will be." Having likely thought this question through long ago, Leon, while modifying some rules of the city of regret, calmly explained, "True souls have no bodies, no senses. Everything is merely perception by the soul. This kind of existence cannot compare to being alive itself. Moreover, from the moment souls enter the dead realm, it constantly erodes away the parts of them that belong to the living. It's just that the speed is slower than in the original locations, but this is a basic rule of the dead realm, and I cannot change it either. By the way," when he got to this point, Leon seemed to remember something and turned to look at the Taurus director beside him. "Lord Taurus, can the way our bureau selects cleaners be changed?" "Ah?" Not expecting Leon to already be eyeing another basic policy of the cleaning bureau right after finishing a slew of major changes, the two directors couldn't help but shudder, feeling a bit anxious as they asked, "Do you have another new idea?" "Actually, I've had this idea for a long time." After pondering for a moment, Leon spoke earnestly. "Lord Taurus, Lord Cancer, to be honest, I've always thought that the methods our bureau's cleaners use to perform their tasks have had significant problems." "Oh dear, here we go again?" Hearing this extremely familiar sentence pattern, the two directors couldn't help but feel a shiver down their spines. Not long after saying this last time, Aquarius had torn apart the millennium tradition of suppression first in the cleaning bureau, then began kneading the dead realm, turning the originally terrifying and eerie world unrecognizable, and subsequently proposed increasingly outrageous plans. And now he was targeting the personnel selection method and execution approach in the Bureau, perhaps. Why not just abolish the original model entirely? I knew it. I knew it. After making a proposal completely in line with the two directors' expectations, Leon earnestly explained, Lord Taurus, Lord Cancer, our current selection method, while able to quickly discover those with extreme personalities and thoughts, and thus those who generate anomalies. But precisely because of this selection method, many of our cleaners are criminals who have committed heinous acts. Even if they now stand at the front line of protecting humanity, their methods in handling matters are quite ruthless, often disregarding the lives of ordinary people, leading to large-scale casualties that could have been avoided. Sigh. There is indeed an issue there. Cancer Director sighed slightly, frowning deeply. However, I still don't agree with your idea because if the Bureau imposes restrictions and prohibits the use of excessive measures, the mortality rate among cleaners will surely soar, leading to more problems. I understand your point. Nodding to Cancer Director, Leon calmly countered. I don't intend to use this as a reason to tie the cleaners' hands, forcing them to choose incredibly dangerous options that might reduce casualties but could harm more people. I just hope to change the selection method and add a few small rules so that future cleaners might be a bit more humane. And when faced with dilemmas, they can manage to make choices that are a bit more human. So, how do you plan to do it? First of all, expanding the scope of inspections, using large-scale inspections to replace the method of pulling people from prison. After organizing his thoughts, Leon looked at Taurus Director. Lord Taurus, can you forge something with a large sensing range that can conduct periodic extensive inspections of human Leon value anomalies? It's possible. Taurus Director hesitated upon hearing this. But such things are not only resource-intensive but also temporarily increase ordinary people's Leon value. If the inspections are too frequent. I understand. Glancing at the City of Regret below, an enlightened look appeared in Taurus Director's eyes. In the past, we didn't use this method of finding people because we were worried about accidentally creating a large number of anomaly holders, causing more anomalous disasters. But if Leon's transformation plan works, this kind of small, repeated micro-immersion is actually a good thing, potentially producing more cleaner candidates. I'll start trying as soon as I get back. Thank you for your hard work. Nodding towards Taurus Director, Leon glanced at the still frowning Cancer Director and continued. As for the issue of cleaners' methods being too harsh, I think we can address it by integrating it with the current Dead Realm. Although too many restrictions can't be made for now, we can use incentives to regulate their behavior. Incentives? In essence, it's a reward and punishment system. Though given cleaners differ significantly from ordinary people, the rewards and penalties need to change accordingly. Glancing at the City of Regret, gradually revealing itself below, Leon mused aloud. Lord Cancer, I've observed that although most cleaners are extreme and stubborn, they actually have considerable regrets, many of which involve family. So what if our Netherworld Bureau added a rule stating that cleaners who join the Bureau, maintain outstanding evaluations, and have no malicious misconduct, can regularly visit deceased relatives, and if they accumulate enough merit, even resurrect them. Then they would probably go on missions as if they were gambling with their lives. After hearing Leon's proposal, the Cancer Director couldn't help but literally gasp for air, and promptly reminded him, but if you do this, and the world gets messed up, it won't get messed up. Leon responded with a shake of his head, his expression resolute. All the cleaners in the Bureau combined only number a few thousand. Even if they all made countless contributions and carried deep love in their hearts, reviving even the dogs raised by their granduncles, at most they would occupy tens of thousands of resurrection spots. Compared to the total population of billions in the current world, these tens of thousands are insignificant. Moreover, these people will be distributed among 11 kingdoms and numerous city-states, along with the Bureau's illusion can as a safeguard, ensuring in every sense that chaos won't arise. Furthermore, this resurrection isn't immortality. Our human lifespan is currently capped at 150 years. After that, these people will return, and the impact remains within a controllable range. Oh, by the way, It was at this point that Leon seemed to have thought of something, eagerly adding, "Actually, it shouldn't be limited to cleaners. Ordinary people within our human race, as long as they contribute significantly enough, could also try being granted some resurrection spots. For example, the scholars of the former Kralik kingdom who are currently cultivating high-yield crops. If they succeed, I think some spots should be allocated to them, at least ensuring these scholars live up to 150 years. Besides, we can also—" No, this is already enough. It's really fast enough." Seeing Leon's thoughts diverging again and somewhat unable to keep up, the cancer director hurriedly waved his hand to stop him, then pleaded, "Aquarius, let's slow down a bit. I'm not exactly against the idea, but slow down, take it step by step, don't just arrange everything at once. You change so much at once. I'm afraid the current world can't withstand it. Rest assured, I know what I'm doing, and will certainly not forcefully push these things forward." Glancing at the equally pensive Taurus director, realizing his proposals might have touched their bottom line again, Leon swallowed the latter half of his ideas, instead explaining gently, "These are all just some ideas, there are bound to be many shortcomings. Naturally, a small-scale trial should be conducted first to confirm no significant flaws before fully advancing, to avoid any irrevocable consequences. Also, if I can live to 150 years, then I still have over 130 years to pursue these endeavors. I can absolutely move forward step by step as you suggested, surely finding a win-win solution." 130 years. Looking at Leon's confident, youthful face, the Cancer and Taurus directors couldn't help but feel startled, then suddenly realized a fact both exciting and somewhat unsettling. Leon is still very young, extremely young, unprecedentedly young. The elder directors are generally aged 100 and over, even the youngest being over 70, old enough to be his grandparents. Once this old generation all passes away, Leon, holding the advantage in both power and seniority, might wield unchallenged authority for over 80 years. Once these changes are pushed through by him, cleaners who benefited while alive and even had their afterlife employment arranged will undoubtedly support him wholeheartedly. The previously somewhat fragmented structure of the cleaning bureau might unprecedentedly unify. Especially considering Leon's current circumstances and the merits he has accumulated, once the current director passes away or retires, it seems almost no other candidate for the new director exists, and when that time comes, the cleaning bureau?
Léon S. Bureau.
Lord Cancer? Lord Cancer. Ah? Shaking himself free from the terrifying idea of all bureau members changing their surnames to Ryan and the current world being squeezed flat and round by Leon, the Cancer director blinked and then, looking a bit tense, said, "Sorry, I got a bit distracted. What did you just say?" "I was wondering if you could get me a batch of demons." Glancing strangely at the two somewhat dazed directors, Leon repeated his earlier request. "Our division of hell has just been established. Many areas are particularly understaffed, and there aren't enough potential souls. So I'd like to ask you to bring in a batch of demons to maintain order and undertake some labor." That's simple. Although acquiring a batch of demons isn't as easy as it sounds, compared to Leon's other proposals, this was already the simplest and most conservative request, and the Cancer director immediately agreed with pleasure, even proactively inquiring what type of demons he wanted. "Let's go with horned demons and horse-headed demons." Taking a look at the city of regret below, Leon's mischievous side emerged again, and he chuckled. These two types of demons might not be powerful, but they're quite fitting in appearance, naturally meant to work in our Hell Bureau. Oh, by the way, maybe you could take the trouble, if you have the time, to run to the Abyss and directly bring over their entire clans. All right. Although unclear why horned demons and horse-headed demons were suitable for Hell, and going specifically to capture two demon clans might be troublesome, as long as Leon doesn't propose any earth-shattering reforms, the Cancer director felt anything could be agreed upon. After promising to visit the corresponding Abyss of Hell and complete the tribute version of Oxhead and Horseface for Emma's Hell Bureau, perhaps associating something from it, the Cancer director curiously asked, "By the way, the 18 layers of Hell you mentioned earlier, how is the arrangement proceeding?" "The progress is okay." When discussing the 18 layers of Hell, Leon visibly perked up, then replied with a smile, The punishments are mostly arranged, but perhaps because the project is slightly cruel, there aren't many souls daring to participate, so manpower for executing punishments has been insufficient. That's why I'm seeking your help.
No souls.
Dare to? Upon hearing Leon's words, the cancer director's face visibly stiffened. So the demons you are asking for are to execute punishments. Don't worry, I don't want to see demons harming humans. I'm asking for those demons mainly to help maintain order, and the specific execution content doesn't involve tormenting evildoers, just throwing the deceased involved in enormous evil deeds into it, with no cap on execution length. Raising his hand to point toward the former dim origin of judgment, temporarily opening the ground with the authority of the realm of the dead, revealing the hollow beneath filled with relentless wailing, Leon introduced with a chuckle. Currently, it's just Mount Knife and Sea of Fire, Tongue-Pulling and Oil Cauldron, Stone Press and Pestle these projects. I initially wanted to add a layer of the boiling feces hell, but the materials are difficult to find and once boiled, the odor is too strong, potentially impacting the property prices in the City of Regret, so for now just opened a few traditional projects, with the rest to be supplemented later. Rest assured, you don't need to worry about too many being punished affecting the normal operation of the realm of the dead. There aren't that many people guilty of heinous crimes. Currently, the longest sentencing is soaking in the oil cauldron for about 20 to 30 years. Then they can be sent to the Naiha Bridge to drink Mengpa soup. Mengpa soup. It's just a big pot I stomped over, with a bit of Yellow Springs water inside. Everyone passing by must sip a little. Leon waved his foot with a chuckle as he explained. Although it can't make people forget all their memories, drinking a sip purifies most of the regrets of the deceased. Then they can be sent to the cliff of the end. Also, since I found an old lady with the surname Montesquieu to watch the pot beneath the Naiha Bridge, I named it Mengpa soup. Old Lady Montesquieu soup. What a strange name. If I went to look at the pot, would it be Granny Jones soup? After internally ridiculing Leon's strange naming convention, Tourist Director couldn't help but squint, gazing in the direction of the Naiha Bridge. Realizing everything was functioning as normal, and thus relaxed his mind temporarily, praising admirably. Looks pretty good. The realm of the dead was thoroughly collapsed. I thought it would take decades to restore things completely, yet you managed to devise an entirely stable new workflow in just over a month, and it even looks better than before. You're too kind. Even though the concept for hell was copied from previous lives, the work was indeed done by himself, and the localization was also his own gradual effort. Leon simply accepted this accolade, winking and inquiring. Sir Taurus, what does the third director say? Have you persuaded him?
No.
Upon hearing Leon's words, Taurus Director's face darkened slightly. He said he's lived in the Sage's Cemetery for so long, with many old friends there, he would rather die inside than move. He even said if I have guts, just kill him directly, otherwise if I force him to move, he'll join the Slaughter King Association. This old scoundrel surely has issues, and the Sage's Cemetery might have problems too. After listening to Taurus Director's relay, Leon couldn't help but click his tongue, squinting his eyes in contemplation. Though the third old man isn't necessarily the enemy, he hides so deeply and deliberately avoids him, hence definitely has other plans. If ignored, unexpected trouble might arise. And having squatted in the Sage's Cemetery for millennia, turning it into his domain, the third old man could easily hide something. Hence Leon's plan is to take the opportunity of this major transformation in the realm of the dead to extract him from the Sage's Cemetery. After checking the situation at Sage's Cemetery, then relocate the third old man and his coffin to an area populated, with many deceased, endeavoring to expose his every move, so that preparations could be made should anything happen. But now it seems he doesn't wish to cooperate, stubbornly refusing to move, even keeping the sage souls locked in and beating back the deceased sent for eviction. Then don't blame me for getting tough, Sir Taurus. After calculating his own cards, Leon looked up at the irate Taurus Director, smiling as he requested. Please make one last trip and try persuading him for me. I've gone several times already, couldn't persuade him. It's different this time. Pointing towards the distant 18 layers of hell, Leon smiled and said, "Kindly inform the third master, if he doesn't move. Tomorrow I will open the boiling excrement hell at the gate of the sage's cemetery. No, I'll dig a circle around it, like a moat, and encase the sage's cemetery in the center, and immediately start boiling until he agrees to move." Ah! Lucky he thought of it. Looking at the internal cleaning bureau files, at the ring-shaped hell pit encircling the sage's cemetery, imagining the possible expression on a certain flat-skulled old man, the red-haired director couldn't help but pound the table, laughing to the point near tears. Bringing Leon into the Virgin Branch was the most correct decision in this life. Ah ha ha ha. Unfortunately, I have to guard 11 ant nest. And cannot leave, otherwise would genuinely want to go down again. See what chaos Leon created in the realm of the dead. Director. After waiting half a day in front of the desk, discovering the red-haired director only laughed without speaking, the female cleaner, clad in a white coat, impatiently opened her mouth to urge. "Have you thought it through? Can you assign me to reside in the realm of the dead temporarily? I want to see the boiling excrement hell, find any materials for refining medicine." Amian, don't rush. It's not difficult to go down now. After laughing sufficiently, the red-haired director rubbed his eye corners with the back of his hand, opened the drawer to rummage, found 2 documents, handed them over and cheerfully said, "Here are notices just issued by the Bureau. Once the Underworld branch formally operates, each cleaner joining the Bureau will receive corresponding welfare treatment according to current ratings, and must periodically visit and learn, even must go learn once after participating in promotion assessments. I have already reported your name in advance. Once the Underworld branch formally opens at the end of the month, you can go directly to visit, meet deceased relatives, then inspect the situation of the 18 layers of hell. Oh yes, remember to pay attention to your methods during missions in the future." Saying this, seemingly reminded of something, the smile on the red-haired director's face slightly retracted. Then, with a serious expression, he sternly advised, "With Leon acting as the Aquarius director, many rules have been amended in the Bureau under his impetus. Now, anyone deliberately escalating situations or causing unintended casualties, even if the mission is completed, will be punished. Like last time when you flooded half the city with excrement, it would be subject to post-event accountability. Even though there were no casualties that time, traces were eliminated by illusion can afterward, even now wouldn't face particularly severe punishment, but the rating would inevitably decrease, may even reduce corresponding benefits." Benefits? Just after the Bureau captured the realm of the dead, and under Leon's proposal established the Underworld branch, providing certain special privileges to everyone, and a few extra guarantees when on missions. Turning the document to the second page, the red-haired director's pale fingertips pointed at it, concisely said, "Now all cleaners after joining must submit portions of flesh material and trace soul samples. Scholars from the former Kralik kingdom scientifically replicate an empty shell body. Freeze it at specific secure locations, updated every 3 years. When you die due to missions, as long as the soul escapes, register at Ghost Gate in the realm of the dead. You can enter the revival process. Once suitable materials are acquired, you'll be shot back from the realm of the dead with the prepared body be reborn. Remember not to spread it out. This is still in a trial phase. How long it will take for full rollout depends on whether any operational issues are encountered." Looking at the shocked Amian in front, the red-haired director in a great mood smiled slightly, then seriously admonished, "I tell you these things only to make you aware. Later on missions, try your utmost to safeguard your soul. If there's no escape, preemptively discard the body. Report directly to the realm of the dead. This way there's a chance to return again." However, according to Bureau guidance, as a trade-off for providing this bottom-line measure, all cleaners must regulate their behavior, endeavor to minimize casualties. Remember, it's not death, it's casualties. Flooding an entire city with excrement is considered large-scale harm. I remember. With some regret nodded, Amian glanced at the documents on the table, then on the hand-drawn photo of the Underworld branch completion ceremony, found Leon with the 3 directors Taurus, Cancer, and Gemini together. Leon sure is impressive. It hasn't been long, yet already ascended to director's position. seeing Leon on the hand-drawn photo, gesturing peace signs at the camera, smiling brilliantly, next to him Emma gazing tenderly. Eyes seemed to speak. Amian couldn't help but exclaim in wonder. Pretty soon after participating in the Dream Realm assessment, it seems not long ago, now seeing him again I must address him as Lord Leon. Phew. Director, look here. Squinting at the photo, Amian couldn't help pointing at Leon's head, frowning slightly and inquiring. Was this a mistake? Why does Leon's hair seem to have a white streak? Leon's hair turned white. After hearing Amian's words, the red-haired director was slightly taken aback, hurriedly picked up the document, carefully scrutinized it, and indeed saw a small tuft of white hair on Leon's head. What's going on? After running his fingers over the image on the document to confirm there were no issues, the red-haired director frowned deeply. Although this image isn't an actual photograph, it's drawn using the puppet painter technique, which captures the mental image directly from the painter's memory, ensuring there's absolutely no mistake. So Leon's hair, was it that the soul pushed down from the cliff of the end hasn't been fully restored? Was there an issue because the soul's filling for the body's ends like hair was incomplete? It shouldn't be a problem with the soul. After closely examining Leon's image, Amian shook his head, denying the red-haired director's speculation, then pointed at the Taurus director beside Leon and said, I have a deep understanding of human bodies. If the white hair were due to imperfect control of the flesh because of soul damage, it should look like Taurus's hair, somewhat withered with a slightly grayish-silvery white hue. But Leon's hair hasn't lost its luster or turned gray. It's a very vibrant white that doesn't seem like the result of life force loss. Rather, it looks like, have you seen puppies? Puppies. Yes, those little mixed-breed puppies. After a moment's thought, Amian blinked and elaborated. Some mixed-breed puppies may be one color when they're born but change to another color as they grow. I feel Leon's current state is somewhat like that. You certainly said it eloquently, but I think I get what you mean. Staring at that tuft of highlighted white hair on Leon's forehead for a while, the red-haired director seemed to understand something, then closed his eyes slightly and nodded calmly. Maybe that's true. Amian, you'll definitely have a spot for the underworld training this time. Do you have any other matters to discuss?
No.
For someone in the workplace, do you have anything else? Basically implies, I have something to do. You may leave. Amian certainly understood this, nodded, then promptly left the director's office. After she left, the red-haired director reached to his ear, lifted a strand of vivid red hair, gently rubbed it and sighed softly. The luminous white, the deep black, I understand now. I get it. Ahaha, I understand now. Just as Leon passed through the cold gray mist outside the ghost gate, bathing again in the cold sunlight of the present world, a black goat's head suddenly popped out from his cufflink, laughing joyfully with sparkling eyes. From insisting on waging war with the realm of the dead, to having some souls penetrate deeply into it, then letting the cleaning bureau and the realm of the dead fight to mutual destruction, and finally, especially saving the Taurus director who supports you the most. All this was your plan, wasn't it? Who are you? Unexpectedly, Leon's first words were these, causing the black goat's mind to blank out. Then its eyes immediately turned red, nostrils flaring to the limit as it breathed heavily like a bellows. Seeing the black goat about to explode so quickly, Leon waved his hand, smiling as he explained while continuing his journey. Don't be hasty. I'm just kidding. You just fell out of favor a bit. It's not like you accidentally died. How could I forget you? You better not. Seeing Leon actually taking the initiative to ease the tension, the black goat, which was one step away from breaking down, took 2 deep breaths, then said with a dark expression, Leon, you jerk. You. You. Damn you. Feeling the true God-level presence of Leon's 60-point contamination value, which surpassed its peak of only 59 points, the black goat couldn't help but swallow its anger, change its address, and on one hand mentally cursed Leon's ancestors, while on the other hand tried to squeeze out a smile. Following you around during this time, I've had some suspicions. If you don't mind, can you hear me out to see if there's any substance to my analysis? Speak. Faced with Leon, who after getting ahead spoke one word at a time in response, the black goat gritted its teeth in agitation, then plastered a smile on its face. Your goal is to completely control the current world, to have it operate entirely according to your will. However, the Cleaning Bureau, which insists on maintaining the status quo, would never allow you to achieve your wishes. So the Cleaning Bureau has, in fact, become your greatest obstacle. Perhaps. What do you mean, perhaps? Certain. Glimpsing the non-committal expression on Leon's face, the black goat curled its lip in disdain, then extended its head to continue. But although the Cleaning Bureau is corrupt and muddle-headed, it still holds humanity's most powerful forces, which even a nation can't contest against. You haven't grown to the point where you could suppress all opposition by force either. So you chose a different path. While using the kingdom of Lutung as a foundation, you band together with major kingdoms to gain support, on the other hand actively approaching the Cleaning Bureau seeking promotion, trying to become part of the higher-ups and dip into decision-making power. That's hard to say. Still bluffing. The black goat sneered internally, squinting its eyes. After the events with the realm of the dead, you immediately saw your chance. By urging the Cleaning Bureau to take offensive actions, you lured them away from the Star Palace's blessing and the Watcher's Palace's protection, into fighting the overlords of the dead realm in disadvantageous territory. Moreover, fearing that the realm of the dead would choose to negotiate due to its fear of the Cleaning Bureau, you deliberately descended early to kill one of the overlords as cruelly as possible, thereby expressing your disgust and hostility towards the realm of the dead, making them understand the consequences of surrender, forcing them to unite against the Cleaning Bureau in a life-and-death battle. Heh! Intent on his journey, Leon couldn't help but chuckle after hearing this. A bit helplessly. You have quite the imagination. What do you mean I have wild imaginations? I only think. You actually do it. Not believing a word Leon said, the black goat reflected on what it had recently seen, smacked its lips, and continued, filled with certainty. After the battle with the realm of the dead, Capricorn Director and 6 Zodiac Directors went to the Heavenly Mountain and won't be back for a while. As for the Sagittarius Director, who has always been wary of you from the beginning and could influence Taurus's decisions, was temporarily left beneath the cliff of the end. The Taurus Director trusts you tremendously. Without the Sagittarius Director's reminder, he basically would do whatever you say. The Cancer Director, with limited thoughts and nearing the end of life, will be busy imparting secret techniques to the next director in the future, so he doesn't have the energy to keep watching you. So now you're the sole brain of the Cleaning Bureau. Until Capri Director and the Zodiac Directors return, nobody can oppose whatever you want to do. And the realm of the dead, nearly wiped out through the Cleaning Bureau's cost, has become the underworld branch under your control. Together with the Kralik Kingdom's body replication technology, as long as you grasp these two aspects, you can essentially hold most cleaners by the throat. The Cleaning Bureau now is entirely yours. Whatever you say. Ryan glanced at the black goat, who was swearing by its assertions, but did not refute its conspiracy theories. Instead, he observed its appearance and then thoughtfully said, "Although this reasoning is a bit silly, it doesn't sound like something your brain could come up with. Be honest, how much benefit have you gained from me?" "Oh no." Hearing Ryan's words, the black goat couldn't help but shiver and hurriedly tried to retract its neck. But just when it had retracted halfway, Ryan grabbed its horn and forcibly pulled it out of the mirror world. Sizzle. Name: Un Complete Original Sin Demon. Fallen: Original Sin Disaster. Appearance: black goat with a preference for smoking low-quality cigarettes, especially good at verbally abusing others, directly cursing those it can beat and silently cursing those it can't. A thorough examination would reveal its body has 2 missing parts. Its eyeballs and goat whip are mere illusions with no corresponding reality. Abilities: Primordial Demon, Original Sin, Greed, Wrath, Disaster, Desolation, War. Price: It doesn't dare ask. Record: A genius great demon who comprehended 7 original sins and 7 corresponding disasters, but due to attempting to push 14 powers to the level of the true god in one go, it has been unable to step into the true god realm for a long time. It was ambushed while infiltrating the real world to seek a breakthrough, currently possessed by Leon Lane, contemporary Aquarius director of the Cleanup Bureau. It has absorbed the infinite greed hidden within Leon Lane's soul, and has redefined the 10 powers held to their current limit. After completely repairing the missing body parts, it would probably be able to break through immediately. Evaluation. A genius demon with tremendous potential, who, after being repeatedly humiliated by 2 masters, not only completely changed its arrogant and conceited flaw, learned how to act obedient, admit its faults, beg for mercy and curry favor, but also picked up from its 2 masters the double standards and shameless habits, is truly the perfect reference model for demons. Contamination value, 44. Damn it. After reading the double standards and shameless evaluations, Ryan's face instantly darkened. Then he looked with a chilling expression at the black goat pulled out, and asked in a faint tone, "No wonder your brain seems different. Have you reunited all your parts?" Not completely yet." Intimidated by Ryan's dangerous gaze, the black goat's neck shrank. Its 2 hind legs trembled slightly, and then, putting on a smiling face, it explained, "It's just that the greed from your body recently has become heavier. Even if we tried our best to consume it, it wasn't enough. Leaving it unaddressed seemed wasteful, so I tried a little, and it just worked out. Ha! Ahaha! The greed from my body?" Hearing the black goat's words, Ryan fell silent for a moment, then switched on the Heart Lake illusion, using the power of Heart Lake God to examine his own feelings. It was indeed turbulent. After looking at his own restless mind, Ryan nodded reluctantly, somewhat recognizing the black goat's statement. Although the black goat's conspiracy theory was mostly nonsense, at least mostly nonsense, after realizing that all the obstacles had been removed and he had vaguely seized the authority to change the world, he indeed couldn't suppress the desire in his heart, eager to do something. Previously, he probably wouldn't have spoken much to the Taurus director and the others. He would have silently acted, and after gaining the support of most cleaners, he would have forced them to accept his ideas. But after discovering that the road was unexpectedly smooth, even though he kept reminding himself to remain stable and not rush, he couldn't help but speak more and make larger moves than originally planned. One could only say, if it hadn't been Lord Taurus who was saved by that shot, but the more suspicious Sagittarius director, he might have already been guarded against or even restrained due to his excessive actions. He was indeed a bit impatient. Although the current approach of acting first to reform and then slowly gaining support seems feasible due to the special circumstances, it's usually more stable to first gain the support of the majority and then gradually create momentum and reform. All right then. After secretly reminding himself to keep a calm mind, to not blindly rush things, Ryan glanced at the black goat's roaming eyes and squinted his own eyes to say, "So, after taking advantage, why didn't you quickly hide? Instead, you come out bouncing around. What are you up to? Encouraging me to directly seize the director's position and then unite all humanity with the Cleanup Bureau." Hearing this, the black goat couldn't help but shudder all over, then stared wide-eyed with joy and asked back, "Have you finally figured it out?" "Figured out your ass." Unable to help rolling his eyes, Ryan, who had returned to the real world, glanced at the Virgo branch in the distance. Then as he walked toward the Virgo branch's building, he said annoyed, "Stop talking nonsense. Get to the point, or I'll have you sent to the kitchen to be stewed." Damn it. That damned red-haired woman, always threatening to stew me. Now this kid has learned it too. Actually, it's not a big deal. After cursing Leon and the red-haired director in his heart twice, the black goat, pretending to be ingratiating, rubbed its hands and, with a smile, said, "I just want to ask, when are you planning to get back my whip, sir?" "Soon." Noticing the expression on the black goat's face, Ryan replied, "I wrote to the director asking, and the director said your whip was seized by Abigail from the Scorpio branch from the sect of fertility. Then she fully purified it. Although the foundation of the sin of lust remains, its powers have been distorted, so it will take some time for repairs before it can be sent over." Teske. That damned witch. Even though he already knew about his good brother's fate, hearing this still made the black goat grind its teeth in rage. After internally cursing the other person's ancestors for 18 generations, the black goat blinked its non-existent eyes, then asked with hopeful eyes, "And what about my eyes?" "We are still looking." After taking a look at the fallen tag in the black goat's name, Ryan, while pushing open the door and stepping into the Virgo branch, casually replied, "Your eyes represent the sin of envy. The Bureau has preliminarily locked onto several suspicious areas based on this condition. According to the Director, results should be out within 1 or 2 months." Director. Upon arriving at the open door of the Director's office, seeing the Director who had one hand curled around her crimson hair at her neck, and the other holding a bronze scissors hesitatingly poised to cut, Ryan's mind couldn't help but freeze slightly. Could the slaughter blood hair really have this effect? Back already? Leon's footsteps were already heard, but the red-haired Director didn't look up at him. Instead, he continued to compare his hair with scissors while casually asking, "Is everything arranged at the realm of the dead branch? It's on the right track, I guess." After responding, Leon couldn't help but curiously ask as he watched the red-haired Director continuously measuring his hair. "But Director what are you doing now?" "Haircut. I'm temporarily transferring the control of slaughter blood hair." After explaining what he was doing, the red-haired Director finally determined the approximate position. The bronze scissors in his hand closed with a click, and a lock of bright red hair was cut off. He then waved away the scattered hair with a serene expression and explained, "Although this item is my abnormal possession, it also bears the responsibility of protecting 11 ant nests. So if I want to leave the capital, I have to transfer control of slaughter blood hair to a successor to ensure the most important ant nest doesn't have any issues." Leaving the capital? Upon hearing this, Leon blinked and then asked in surprise, "Did something happen at the realm of the dead branch during these days? Why even you need to go on a mission? You're overthinking. Just a vacation." Glancing at Leon's hair with a touch of white, the red-haired Director temporarily stopped the scissors and said with a smile, "Because I have to stay in the capital all year round to ensure the safety of 11 ant nests. My working hours are the longest among all the branch directors. I've hardly had any time for rest. With the Slaughter King Association severely weakened and the realm of the dead turned into the realm of the dead branch by you, it's rare for there to be a period of calm, so I've decided to find a nice place to take a break. So that's it." After listening to the red-haired Director's explanation, Leon nodded in understanding, but soon felt something was off. Based on his knowledge of the Director, she seemed to be the type that preferred calm over action. Or to put it bluntly, whether she wanted to move or not before, she would just become calm after drinking too much. For her, the enjoyment of going out for relaxation is far less straightforward than a good drink, so, "Where do you want to go?" With a look of interest, Leon put his hand behind his back and grabbed the black goat's head skin, then asked with curious eyes, "I've just finished the work at the realm of the dead branch. Planning to take a few days off. Could you tell me how you plan to relax? Maybe I can use it as a reference." "You really are." After a brief moment of silence, looking at Leon's turned-away right hand, the red-haired Director couldn't help but shake her head with a helpless smile. "You even suspect my vacation? You're too cautious. Can't you be a little sunny? You're the one who lied first." Seeing the red-haired Director proactively reveal, Leon then brought his hand from behind, grabbing the black goat's head openly while he squinted slightly and said, "I respect others' privacy. I can refrain from asking what you don't want to say. But since I came back, you've been acting odd, so there's definitely something wrong." "I'm normal, what's odd?" "It's that you're acting normal that's odd." "Stop pretending." Seeing the red-haired Director's somewhat speechless expression, Leon became more determined in his guess, pursing his lips before directly exposing. "Based on my understanding of you during such rare idle times, you should be drinking at work already. If you're normal, then what I should have seen when I got back would be a drunk in you. Besides that, you'd be drinking and winking at me." asking if you could help advance your future year's salary after becoming a director, or urging me to ask Taurus for the wine god's pearls. If I disagreed, you might even threaten me with the drunkenness, claiming that if I didn't help you get soaking wine pearl, you'd report me to Veronica for harassment or something. How could it possibly be this serious now? Even though it was baseless speculation, it did seem like things she would do. Facing Leon's reasonable analysis, the red-haired director smacked her lips for a moment, then decisively gave up on the idea of concealment, nodding briskly instead. You're right. I do have something I'm keeping from you. So you. But I just won't tell you. Leaning on her broad chair back, crossing her legs, the red-haired director looked at the speechless Leon and said with a smile, even though now you're a director half a level above me, you can't make me listen to everything, right? As for what I plan to do after leaving the capital, if you can guess, or if you can catch up, you can chase, but I won't say anything. Really won't tell? Won't tell. Want to reconsider? No need. The red-haired director smiled confidently, toe casually swinging as she said, today you, having guessed you might cause trouble for me, I specially went to see Taurus before coming back and got the wine god's pearls. Tossing the small ball the size of a beer bottle cap, Leon then grasped the fragrant, soaking wine pearl back into his palm, off-blocking the red-haired director's wolf-like eyes, and then said slowly, you have one more chance to reorganize your words. Are you going to talk or not? Aye. Strange. What kind of secret is this? She's really holding out? Looking surprised at the still resisting red-haired director, Leon thought for a moment, then under the panic of the black goat's gaze, reached out to open its mouth, moving the soaking wine pearl to the side, pretending to feed it. If you don't tell, I'll feed it. Director, the wine god has been dealt with by me, and this pearl melts when it encounters saliva, so feed it then. Ah! In Leon's shock beyond measure, the red-haired director actually withdrew her gaze, gritting her teeth to hum while clenching her fists. Just some wine I can endure. No way. Isn't this wrong? Are you still the drink-loving director I know? Looking at the red-haired director, who was still defiantly holding on during this time, Leon's mind went momentarily blank, somewhat unable to believe what was happening before him. However, just as he was dazed, a few strands of red hair previously cut by the bronze scissors quietly swam over with the carpet's cover, clambering up from the black goat's fur, fiercely strangling its opened mouth,